Well, it's another start of a brand new week. If you're up at this hour, then I'm wishing you the very best of the week ahead and today. We on the AM show are happy. It's our absolute pleasure to steer the conversations and bring you news that matters to you, a news review that resonates with you, and the big stories and the analysis of it. Welcome to the AM show. My name is Sweetie Abochi. Now, it's just 47 more days to go for the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections. What does this mean for us? It means it's a politically charged climate. But of course, we'll bring you the AM news right after this intro, and then news review comes up next. Dr. Paul Dankwa, who is spokesperson for governance and security, will be joining us, as well as Nana Yaachepim Jantua, the former general secretary of the CPP. Both personalities helping us to review the news stories. And then Muftan Abela Abdullahi will bring you AM Sports. Now, for our big stories this morning, we'll look at a showdown in the House of Legislature this week as the NDC minority vows to jealously guard their new status in Parliament as the majority now, owing to that decision by the Speaker Alban Bagbin to declare 4 seats vacant, setting Parliament and the judiciary on a collision course days after the Supreme Court placed a stay of execution on the decision by the Speaker of Parliament to, activate Article 97 Clause 1G of the Constitution to declare those 4 seats vacant. Now, how do we navigate this legal gridlock and constitutional conundrum? With its far-reaching ramifications for the governance of this fledgling democracy, we will unpack all the issues right here on the AM show. Now, also, Joy News' Erastus Asare Donko, you know him, is leading the charge on shining light on Galamsey activities, and a crew have been attacked by armed men claiming to be working for Idel Metallium Resources Limited, a mining site at Esumenya, close to Mansu, Nkran in the Ashanti region. We will give you more details later on the show. And then later on, when we open the phone lines, you get to have your say, but you can join the conversation starting right now via social media handles. We are Joy News on TV. Welcome aboard to the AM show. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and I do this with Benjamin Akakpo. But let's start with the AM news anchored by myself. This is the AM news, and of course, let's start from Parliament, because the opposition NDC in Parliament is readying itself for a fight in Parliament, insisting they are the majority in the House. On Thursday, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin declared 4 seats vacant that effectively made the NDC caucus the majority. But barely 24 hours after that, the Supreme Court stayed the execution of that declaration. Speaking at a news conference in Parliament, Dr. Kesulatu Forson insisted the Speaker had not done anything wrong and they will resist any attempt to strip them of the majority status. Our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Kweku Asante, has the rest of the story.
On Thursday, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin delivered a ruling, or what some have said was a declaration, that effectively made the NDC group in Parliament the majority caucus in the House. But 24 hours after that, the Supreme Court ruled to stay the execution of that ruling by the Speaker of Parliament. The NDC MPs, however, say that the Speaker of Parliament did no wrong and they will resist any plan to push them back into the minority.
For the avoidance of doubt, the Speaker's decisions to declare the 4 seat vacant is lawful exercise of his responsibilities derived from the 1992 Constitution and the Standing Orders of Parliament. The effect of the Speaker's declaration is that currently we no longer have an independent member of Parliament. The MPP has 135 members of Parliament only. The NDC has 136 members of Parliament, and there is no second Deputy Speaker of Parliament. We will jealously protect our new majority status and will not bow, retreat, nor surrender our lawfully earned status.
Dr. Kesulatu Forson, who is the NDC leader in Parliament, has been announcing the plans that the NDC group have if they stay in the majority, including to repeal the e-levy and the betting tax.
It is indeed true that we will use our new majority numbers to benefit Ghanaians by introducing private members' bill to remove the e-levy and to reduce the suffering of the people of Ghana. Yes. It is also true that we will use our new majority to remove the betting tax and other nuisance taxes. Yes. We stand with him, pledge our support, and urge him to protect the dignity and sanctity of the Parliament of Ghana. In the same vein, we call on Ghanaians to stand by the Speaker and resist oppressors' rule. From day one, we have not reneged on our fight for the people of Ghana.
When asked specifically about this Supreme Court ruling, Mahama Yarega, the NDC MP for Boku Central, says, until and unless the Speaker of Parliament comes to the floor and informs them that that is the new course of action, they will still consider themselves as the majority.
We are not aware of any law or any constitutional provision that enables anybody to suspend a decision of the Speaker in Parliament properly constituted. Be that as it may, we as parliamentarians act on the basis of communication coming to us from the Speaker. We don't hear things in the news and act on them, or cite copies of records of proceedings in any court on social media and act on them. We act on the basis of communication coming to us from the Right Honorable Speaker. And if that communication says we should walk into the sea, we walk into the sea, because we listen only to the Speaker and nobody else in relation to the integrity, the legality, and the appropriateness of what has happened in the chamber of Parliament.
On Tuesday, the House is set to resume after it adjourned last Thursday, and it's going to be a showdown because both sides are now carrying themselves as the majority in Parliament. But of course, the majority can only be one side, and it is only one side that can sit on the right-hand side of the Speaker. But with both the NDC and the NPP pushing themselves onto that right side, it is left to be seen what exactly is going to happen then, with even claims now from the NDC MPs that certain soldiers are set to be deployed to the precincts of Parliament on Tuesday when the House resumes. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Killers may go, killers may come, but the revolution has come to stay.
Let's stay on this matter because Associate Law Professor and Head of the Law, Humanities and Social Sciences Department at Ashesi University, Dr. Mensah Bonsu, has urged the NDC members of Parliament to challenge the Supreme Court's ruling if they have any reservations. According to Dr. Mensah Bonsu, the Supreme Court exists to offer finality and correct errors, and dissenting parties should pursue a supervisory order when necessary. She made these comments on Newsfile.
When a person who has a duty exercises their duty and you disagree with it, I think you go for a supervisory order. You apply for a certiorari or mandamus or as applicable, and that's on notice. So I'm a little stumped what the next step should be, to be honest. And again, the fact that the order is until the matter is determined, as opposed to the 10 days that ex parte applications are supposed to get. Perhaps the minority would like to request the court to review that order and bring it in compliance with the
I get it that you.
I mean, the whole point in a judicial system is to create some finality to actions. So if everybody is to take their own interpretation as correct and disregard the courts, we'll be back in a state of nature, to be honest. And so that one of the key reasons why separation of powers has been proposed as a useful way to run a country is the principle of institutional settlement, which is a principle about finality, right? So Waldron argues that it's not really that this is the institution that will get the answer right all the time, or even that this particular answer is right. It is that this particular answer is final and we can respond to that. So we have a methodology for speaking to our court when we think our court is wrong. That's the methodology you adopt. You don't then say, well, I think they're wrong, so I won't do it. Because when you do that, what we're saying is that every time there's a decision, people should judge whether that decision ought to be obeyed or not. In which case, what's the point in the court? Why don't we just let the people figure it out in the first place and then decide what they will do and fight if they're wrong? If they can't agree, then they should fight, and then the strongest should win.
That's the state of affairs that we chose to leave when we decided to set up a constitutional government. So if it is wrong, use the methodology to correct it.
The question some lawyers are asking...
Parliament should not be an institution that sets the example to the citizenry about how to treat the Supreme Court.
Question...
Still on the matter, MP for Bolgatanga East Dominic Ayene agrees with Dr. Mensah Bonsu that NDC MPs should follow legal procedures. However, he points out that while the court has the final say on disputes or ambiguities concerning legal provisions, it is not the sole authority on interpreting the Constitution.
I think she's right in respect of how we proceed. Habib had pointed out the distinction between politics, the conduct of politics in the House and the settlement of legal matters, right? In settling this legal matter, the best will be for Mr. Speaker's lawyers to apply to set aside, to vacate the order of stay, okay?
This was unanimous, so.
Yes, why not? 5. But if legal argument is brought to the attention of the court, that the court was wrong, that it erred in granting the stay, I think that the court, should be minded to reverse itself.
So it is possible that by Monday when we wake up, the lawyers for the Speaker would have filed a process to vacate this order. And they would have also filed a stay of execution of the
Supreme Court order.
And then the status quo ante will remain. That the Speaker's orders will be worked with.
That is what I expect. Okay, and I actually talked with Mr. Speaker's lawyer, not today, but I think yesterday in the afternoon. At the time that I was speaking to him, he hadn't had the full complement of even the writ and the statement of case as well as the ruling. But I'm sure by now he would have them and he will work over the weekend to be able to file those things. So I agree with her that there is some level of interpretation of the Constitution at the level of the administrative state.
Right.
But when there is ambiguity and there is a dispute as to the meaning and the implications of that provision, it is the Supreme Court that has the final word.
That's right.
So the fact that it has the final word doesn't mean that it has exclusive power to interpret the Constitution.
Now, away from Parliament and the fallout from the Speaker's ruling, Executive Director of the Peasants Farmers Association of Ghana, Bismarck Owusu-Nortey, has warned that if decisive action is not taken, the country will face a generational food crisis. He stated that illegal mining is having a significant impact on agricultural production, taking over farmlands, contaminating water bodies, and leading to the loss of a majority of the youth workforce to this illegal activity. He reiterated calls for the government to declare a state of emergency on illegal mining to restore order in the sector. Bismarck Owusu-Nortey made the call in Wa during the celebration of World Food Day.
As part of the celebration of the World Food Day in the Upper West region, a one-day sensitization workshop was held for major stakeholders in the agriculture production sector. It is aimed at sensitizing them on the effect of illegal mining, climate change, and genetically modified organisms on agricultural production in the country. Executive Director of Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, Bismarck Owusu-Nortey, averred that the effects of illegal mining is having a huge toll on agriculture, which has taken over farmlands, water bodies, and above all, majority of the youth workforce. He warned that if decisive action is not taken, the country will face the national food crisis. He reiterated calls made to government to declare a state of emergency to bring sanity to the mining sector.
We call on government to still abide by our demands to call for a state of emergency on illegal mining. We still stand by it, even though government has announced some measures. We feel those measures are not sustainable enough because, as I'm speaking to you, the illegal miners are still out there in the water bodies, on the farmlands, causing havoc. So it's important for the state to declare a state of emergency to ensure that we can temporarily halt the process, clear all the mess we've created, we claim our lands, we claim our farmlands, and ensure that we have a good food system.
Bismarck Osunote also spoke about the effects of climate change and genetically modified organisms.
Apart from government putting in place measures to mitigate the effect on farmers, we are also doing our part by ensuring that farmers also practice sustainable farming practices. And one of the key practices that we are promoting is agroecology and circular economy. And we feel that if farmers are able to adapt to climate change by adopting some key agroecological practices like minimum tillage, cover cropping, and a couple of other practices, they can be able to protect themselves from the harsh realities of climate change.
Deputy Director of the Center for Indigenous Knowledge and Organizational Development, CICOD, Daniel Bunoku, noted that though the issue of illegal mining is on the front burner, he sees the effect of the introduction and proliferation of genetically modified organisms and biotechnology, which serves as a means through which the former is carried out. He called on the people to advocate for policies that protect farmers' rights, support agroecological practices, and reject the corporate state takeover of our foods.
We face a very serious existential threat, especially where we have seen in recent times a lot of corporate pressure towards the takeover of the seed and food system globally. And once we lose our food, we've lost our identity, we've lost our culture, and we've lost our heritage. So while we share the solidarity with government, we solidarize with all the people who are fighting illegal mining and galamsey, we would encourage people to avert their minds to a much bigger existential threat that we face, which is the introduction or the proliferation of genetically modified organisms and biotechnology, which is the means through which all of these things are brought to us on our table.
Action Aid Ghana Head of Programs, Campaigns and Innovation, Justin Bayo, calls for a shift in the financing of fossil fuels and industrial agriculture to agroecology and food sovereignty.
Too much money, and I mean too much money, is going to the drivers of climate change, and too little is going to the solutions. This year is key to fixing and redirecting private, public, and climate finance flows that are failing the planet. Reevaluating our financial priorities has never been more urgent in the face of the escalating climate change issues, biodiversity loss, and social inequality.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Now to the dry spell that hits the northern region. A scientist at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, that is CSIR, Crop Research Institute in Kumasi, Dr. Dafeamekpor, has affirmed that farmers in the 5 communities that they were working with will be able to meet their crop targets despite the dry spell that hits the northern region. He said farmers who applied smart seed, soil and water management practices, among other techniques, are expecting a good harvest, while some have already harvested their crops. There was a prolonged dry spell that affected several regions in the country, including the northern region, raising fears of a potential food shortage. However, speaking to Joy News during a donation of simple farm machinery to farmer groups, Dr. Dafeamekpor stated that farmers in their project area are experiencing a good yield.
The Alliance of Biodiversity International and International Center for Tropical Agriculture, in partnership with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, Crop Research Institute, Kumasi, is working in 5 communities in the Kombongo district of the northern region. The ECRA project is being implemented in Balingpiang, Dakbahe, Kukuo, Banjogo, and Behago communities. Farmers are being taught on how to use smart agricultural information, seed, fertilizer, among others, for good yield. Speaking at a donation of farm machinery to farmer groups at Kunkulung, Dr. Dafeamekpor said, because the seeds are early maturing, the farmers were able to escape the dry spell.
This year, we've experienced major drought during the raining season. And per our research, the seeds we have introduced to the farmers are Climate Smart, first because they are early maturing. The maize variety is early maturing, Opebro, the cowpea variety is early maturing, and the groundnut variety is also early maturing. So this enables the farmers to escape the drought. And they are also drought tolerant, so that in case of little moisture, the farmer can still get some harvest. There will not be total crop lost. So in these 5 communities we've been working in since last year, this year the farmers were able to still harvest something, although they did not get the full economic yield, but they got the targets they were expecting.
The Management Information System Officer at the Kumbungu District Agricultural Department, Abdul Karim Yakubu, appealed that more communities be roped onto the project.
We are encouraging ICRA to increase the number of communities in the district and at least cover some other districts in the northern region in particular and the country at large, so that our farmers will not always sacrifice for nothing at the end of the day. And again, I want to assure our farmers that the machines are friendly, and so women can use it. They are very simple. You need not to push hard in order for it to do the planting for you.
A farmer, Al-Hassan Abdul Wahab, said the knowledge they have acquired has helped a lot. He said even though there was a dry spell, they are harvesting good yield.
The knowledge we've been given from the ICRA project, through that scientific knowledge, we use it in our farms, and by the grace of Almighty Allah, we will cultivate more in our farms. For us, we compare it to the past years. We can see that this year our yield will be very high. Even as part of this drought, our yield will be very high.
Let's do some health stories. The Fertility Society of Ghana is calling for the early enactment of the Assisted Reproductive Technology Regulation Bill aimed at addressing infertility and its care in Ghana. Infertility treatment, including vitro fertilization, that is the IVF in Ghana, are plagued by concerns over safety, a shortage of specialists, high costs, and lack of education and access. The regulatory bill, currently with the Attorney General's Department, will ensure safer practices and stricter quality controls in fertility treatments.
Childless women can be physically, verbally, and psychologically abused, especially in developing countries like Ghana. Some of them go every extent to find remedy to their predicament due to family and societal pressures. This has influenced the emergence of assisted reproductive technologies and procedures to provide surgical help to infertile couples. The Fertility Society of Ghana is seeking to minimize complications and risk through an Assisted Reproductive Technology Regulation Bill. President of the Fertility Society of Ghana, Dr. Rudolph Agagigba, says the bill, once enacted, will provide a framework to enhance the safety and efficacy of fertility care across the country.
We have not finished the regulation yet. Every professional body has to be regulated so that the practice doesn't go wayward. Okay, make sure that people get right care without complications. So we have started that process, and very soon, hopefully, we will send a bill to Parliament for that to pass into law, so that if you say, for instance, don't put, let's say, more than 2 embryos, and a doctor puts more than 2 embryos into a woman, and the woman becomes pregnant with triplets, and then we'll take that hospital on. If we see that some particular complications are coming from a particular hospital, then we'll have to investigate. If you found that you are operating against the law, the regulation, then you can be taken on. That is one area that we are looking at. I mentioned training. Prior to
the president was speaking on the 7th Annual General and Scientific Conference in Kumasi on the theme Safety of ART Therapies in Ghana, Role of Stakeholders. Currently, there are over 30 assisted conception centers with locations in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, and Takoradi. The ART techniques are still not available to majority of infertile couples because of its accessibility. The society is calling for more public fertility centers and the coverage of fertility treatment by the National Health Insurance Scheme. Dr. Adam Hiaji is the immediate past president of the Fertility Society of Ghana.
Access is still a problem, because currently all the assisted reproductive centers or the IVF centers are in the private sectors, in the private hospitals. because the government is focusing on treating more infectious diseases and trying to make basic health available to the ordinary Ghanaian. And then after that, we'll move forward to having IVF centers in the public centers. But what FESOC is requesting is that at least some of the investigations should be covered by the National Health Agency scheme, insurance scheme, National Health Insurance Scheme. Because now WHO, which is the World Health Organization, says that infertility is a disease.
Reporting for Joy News, my name is Clinton Yeboah.
Now, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, in collaboration with the Ghana Enterprises Agency, has initiated efforts to empower women to overcome gender-related challenges and access to entrepreneurial opportunities. At a forum with representatives from academia, industry, and government agencies, the ministry discussed strategies to equip women with the tools and resources needed to start their own businesses. The initiative, Business in the Box, aims to provide funding and support to women, particularly those in disadvantaged groups, to ensure their active participation in Ghana's economy. Here's more.
The Trade Ministry put together the conference to brainstorm ways and means to ensure that women are empowered. The ministry says its hope is to rise above gendered challenges and take advantage of various opportunities. Leveraging on what they call business in the box, they believe that would help them equip the women with various tools and funding to enable them start their own businesses. Professor Sewa Bene Mensah is an associate professor of entrepreneurship at the University of Cape Coast.
What the GA is trying to do is to equip women with various tools, some kind of funding to start their own businesses and make a living. Right. It's not only about funding, and for us in academia, most often we even rank funding among the least, causes of women's inability to pursue entrepreneurship. Right. We would rather place on top of the list training, right, access to information, and then even the word empowerment, to empower them psychologically, socially, to go all out, that you can make it.
Coordinator at the Regional Coordinating Council, Blaise Kwame Dake, enumerated some of the challenges in the sector that hinder the sector's growth.
However, despite its importance, the sector faces considerable challenges, particularly in areas such as financing, training, and policy support. To unlock the full potential of MSMEs, we must work together to create an environment where these businesses can thrive, innovate, and compete both locally and globally.
Central Regional Chairman of GUTA, Paul Kofi McCarthy, and the Western Regional Chairperson for GUTA, Albi Abebu, have been speaking to the media.
You see that the tax system too is also worrying them. Let's say somebody will start its business, the private sectors. They have more of them have the skills, but because of the tax that comes to them all the time, it also I take them off from the business. So what we are trying to tell the government is, if anything to go by, they should be giving some tax amnesty here and there, so that it will cushion them to, be in the business for a very long time.
If you look at the MSME space, it dominates in terms of the total number of, or the percentage of employment that is offered, about 92% or so. Women-owned businesses constitute a far lesser percentage of that greater aggregate. Is around between 40 and 42%. And so there's the need to deliberately have policy address some of these challenges. And I think that there are a number of agencies, even sectors, private sector organizations, that all aim to have some of these things sorted out. But in terms of a forum like this, it grants the opportunity to align views, to align interventions, and then have one framework to address the challenges.
The Ministry of Trade and Industry says it is seeking to help empower those in disadvantaged brackets empowering them to be productive.
Coming up next is Business Updates with Benjamin Akakpo.
Welcome to our business updates for the morning. In our first story, economist Professor Lord Menta has impressed on Parliament to immediately resort to the negotiating table and iron out differences to prevent the potential threat to fresh disbursements as well as spending approvals for next year. His caution comes on the back of the Supreme Court's pronouncement of a stay of execution on Speaker Alban Bagmin's ruling, which declared 4 parliamentary seats vacant. Speaking to Joy Business on the ramifications of these developments on Ghana's economic recovery process, Professor Mensah maintained both sides of the divide had to compromise to ensure government's business was not affected.
I think from where I sit, it depends on, the parliament's posture. I think the parliament represents the people, and they should have the people at heart rather than, tapping their shoulders and getting to know who becomes the majority leader or minority leader. But from where I sit, I'm not a constitution expert, but I can tell you that what is right is right. I mean, what the Constitution says is what we have to go with. And so those who are losing, their seat, to relinquish their majority position in Parliament should be ready to do that. And then those who are taking up the majority position should be, as fast as possible, reconstitute their committees here and there so that we get business running for the country. Because we cannot afford to, get another hold up as a result of, Parliament, composition uncertainty. And, this is part of political risk, which we cannot overlook when it comes to, financial management. So, public financial management. So, from where I sit, I think they just have to sit up.
Well, now the director of the African Coconut Group, Kweku Boateng, has called on business leaders to explore opportunities in the coconut industry, citing its vast potential as a sustainable investment option. Speaking to Joy Business ahead of the 2024 installment of the International Coconut Festival Ghana, Mr. Boateng emphasized that investing in coconut production and processing offered numerous benefits, including high returns on investment and job opportunities.
Coconut is a versatile crop. It is seen in the pharmaceutical industry, the food and beverage industry, the cosmetic industry, name them, biodiesel, eco-friendly crop. So coconut is a zero-waste crop. In the value chain, we're talking about 5 value chains of coconuts: processors, exporters, vendors, farmers, and even nursery operators. This gives wide opportunity for employment. And currently, Ghana is lying 12th in the world and number 1 in Africa, with an annual production of 504,000 metric tons. What has attributed to this? Coconut is a versatile crop. Every part of coconut is money. It's a zero-waste crop. Cocoa pit, which serves as a medium for greenhouse agriculture, comes from the coconut husk. This same husk can be turned by adding value to produce mats and mattresses. When it comes to charcoal, the coconut shell, it can be burned to produce charcoal, which is eco-friendly. So it is important for constant advocacy of coconut as a cash crop to increase production so that the various value-added products can work. When we are able to do this, over 1 million people can be employed in the sector. Because currently, just at the production level, about 350,000 people, whether direct or indirect jobs, gain a source of livelihood from coconut.
And on that cash crop note, we cap off business, handing over back to Sweetie Abochi.
Thank you, Benjamin. So let's get ready for news review segment. Nana Yachapim Jantwa, former General Secretary of the CPP, and Dr. Paul Dankwa, government spokesperson on governance and security, are joining us to review the news stories captured in the papers. We're back in a bit. And we are live for for the news review segment right here on the AM show. Our guest joining Benjamin and I this morning, Dr. Paul Gregboachidankwa, our government spokesperson on governance and security, Nanaya Achepim-Jantwa, former General Secretary of the CPP. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program. Paul, you're matching me today, something Benjamin usually does, but today you took the.
I think that the entire country is being painted blue for the new patriotic party.
I'm sorry, mine does not.
Well, yes, of course. I mean, I know blue is a shade of color, but let me greet the Ghanaian people and to thank you for the opportunity. It's good to be here.
Nanaya, welcome to the program.
Thank you, my dear. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Let's start with you. Share your 2 minutes take with us.
Oh, really? I am so saddened by. Good morning to Ghana. Good morning to your viewers. Good morning to you and Ben. I'm so saddened by the death of those two girls. One was buried at the weekend.
Yeah.
A vigil was held for them, and I believe that people should be responsible when they are driving. For some reason, the road has become like a carnage and like a circus. Sometimes when you are driving around, you wonder whether people really went to driving school. I believe that there should be a rule that before you sit behind that steer, you should have some form of training. Because it's as if training is done in the back rooms of people, and the drivers just get into the driver's seat.
Right.
And they are just driving. Most trotro mates just drive, and they don't even have the license to drive, and they create confusion on the road. It's sad that these little girls have lost their lives. Can you speak up for us? I said it's sad that these little girls have lost their lives, and it is unfortunate. Our heart goes out to their families, and I even heard that one of the parents has gone dump. So since the issue started, the father hasn't spoken to them, hasn't uttered a word.
Well, sympathies to the families. Yeah. In fact, I saw social media coming for Bishop Amwako, and he said that it's an accident. My son didn't take a gun to kill anyone, so you should take it easy.
He actually said that?
Yeah, I went on Twitter yesterday. But Dr. Paul Gregboachidankwa, what's your take?
I agree with Nana very certainly. It's a very troubling situation. I was at a vigil. I was also at a burial. The community of Cornerstone International School is a community where we all engage every now and then when we have an opportunity. Our deepest condolences to Mame Jumo, and also to Justin Agbenu. Deepest condolences to the family as well. It gets closer and closer because this has become a very big issue that has hit all Ghanaians in Ghana and even in the diaspora. I think it's a very reckless incident that happened. I would admonish Prophet Salifu Amwako to desist public engagement.
Maybe silent.
When you say that your son did not pick a gun, I think that
you
have it on the front page, yes, of the publisher. If you say that my son did not pick a gun, your son was reckless, and I do not even call this an accident, because on the road that the accident happened, you must be driving at 20 kilometers per hour.
Right.
And so I don't think that this is a splash in the faces of every Ghanaian who is mourning this very situation. Yes, I mean, he says that my son did not kill anyone with a gun. Stop the noise. This is an unfortunate statement.
So I came across this post yesterday, and I was hoping he hadn't said that. So you see, you have to understand him. Human beings, if something happens, look at both sides. If you were in his shoes, having had to be arrested, he and his wife, Moa, and everything, not the situation you would want, someone as prominent as he. I hear he went to the houses of the two and was sacked and all of that. And indeed, there will be pain. Some of this should be understandable. Then the EIB, is it City or EIB reporter, was also attacked by some of his supporters, though later he came out and told them, no, don't do that. But the point is, if you want to come out with rhetoric like that, it is one, unnecessary, and two, insensitive. You should just relax. Let the processes go through, because it is your son who has caused this. I don't want to go into parenting because you don't know full details, so let's leave it there. But at 16, he couldn't possibly have had a license if he is 16, okay? And all the other dynamics, he was speeding. Why did he even have access to a car?
A Jaguar.
Get it? So if you want to go down this road and tell people, stop the noise, then I also look at you like, are you for real? You've killed someone's, I mean, well, not
Then
you, but your son
one of
has...
them, she's an only child, though.
Justine.
Look at that.
Yes,
As a
Justine
Justine.
Look at that.
Is the only child of the parents.
The parents.
It's something that I wish he would just keep quiet.
This even indicates that this is not the first time the gentleman is driving, because it's a consistent, repeated effort.
No, I hear on, though some people say, and again, this is not,
on
I'm
Snap,
not,
on Snap
exactly,
and all of those. I've seen all those videos.
Okay.
We have children the same ages.
You may also say that maybe the man is not on Snapchat. He doesn't get to see.
No,
there are apps
doesn't
I'm
know.
not on. If you were doing something there, I wouldn't.
too, I'm
When
not
your child
there.
is picking a vehicle at 1 a.m., I mean, clearly, I think that it's not right.
Gentlemen, ladies,
Anyway.
let's get into the news review. But I want to start with this story from myjoyonline.com before we get into the Daily Graphic. And it's a story of Joy News' Erastus Asari Donko and about 3 other members of his crew attacked by armed men at mining sites in Ashanti region. I just want to read a bit of the story. Now, 3 staff of the Multimedia Group Limited, including Erastus Asari Donko, have been attacked by armed men who claim to be working for Edel Metallium Resources Limited, a mining site at Esumenya close to Bansunkran in the Ashanti region. And over 10 heavily belted armed men with pump-action guns attacked them and forcibly drove them to a location before subjecting them to severe beatings and abandoning them. Now, portions of the newly restored Asenanyo Forest Reserve have recently seen another spate of destruction, and streams joining the Ankobra River have also been polluted, and official complaints have been lodged at the Manso Edubia police station to investigate the incident and act accordingly. I've read the story. When I watched the news yesterday, I was really saddened. And I'm thinking that if we got to the point where, even in the face of all the devastation that illegal mining is causing our water bodies and forest reserves, people are still bold, or should I say emboldened enough to pick up guns and, treat journalists this way, then where is the fight really? At what end? Let me start with you, Dr. Pogre Bachidankwa. What do you make of this story?
People, let me go and finish
this is a very troubling news that is coming in. I haven't cited it, but I'm glad that you've brought it up. There are required law institutions that must be able to attend to these issues. The Ghana Police Service must immediately be alerted on this issue. Very clearly, government is very strong on the fight against illegal mining and irresponsible mining. You are aware of the directives of the President and Ado Dankwa Akufo-Addo in this regard.
Paul Grave, can you address the issue and
No,
stop
I mean,
this
that's
winding,
it. No, but Benjamin,
this serpentine.
No, but it's not serpentine.
When these issues come out, you always want to go around in circles. Hit the nail on the head, Paul Grave.
The nail on the head. I said it's wrong. And I said the Ghana police should be able to call it. You want me to just hit the nail and leave it? Of course, government is making efforts. I should not make statements that government is making the effort.
The efforts, the so-called, the purported efforts,
I shouldn't make the statement that government
have
is
yielded
making the
practically
effort.
nothing.
How can you make that statement? Government has sent
I guess the argument
military
is,
people. Government has sent
is that if
operating halts.
government efforts were effective, people, illegal miners, wouldn't be emboldened enough to attack journalists who are simply doing their work.
Which is why.
So that is how do you reconcile the efforts that government is making and what we are actually seeing on the ground?
I condemned the act of this attack. I said there are required institutions that must be able to look into this. And then I'm coming on to state what government is doing. Must I not remind the Ghanaian people what government is doing? Unless, of course, you don't want me to talk about the efforts of government.
Let me ask you a quick question as you remind Ghanaians. You remember the latest Operation Halt, right? Paul Grave. You remember the latest Operation Halt, right?
Yes, I do.
There's something about fighting this that is very interesting. Do you know what you do? You go into one Galamsey community, one, out of the hundreds, out of the thousands. You go into one at a time. Not that you have multiple military people at different places at the same time. You go into one. Then you actually tell the people, you let them know you are coming. You are there for 2 weeks. You actually mentioned that you will be there for 2 weeks. And after you are gone, if you watched the news file over the weekend, you would have seen that some of the places they went to just recently, people are back there. doing it again. And you think that will seriously, sitting down today as a reverend minister, you believe, you are a reverend minister, right?
Of course.
You believe that will solve the Galamsey problem?
Benjamin,
and those are the tough actions being taken to solve Galamsey.
I am glad you are not enrolled into the military. I'm very glad you're not enrolled into the military.
Okay,
because
so
there are military statistics that are deployed based on whatever situation that we are in. And so if we have deployed military into a particular area, like we did in the eastern region and some parts of water bodies and forest reserves, where the president has said is red zones, no one should go there. And the military had gone in to ensure that people stay away from the water bodies, people stay away from the forest reserves. And it's a period of 2 weeks, and the military is deploying some more strategies to be able to put in more battalions into other areas. How do you say that government is losing the fight?
Right, I find that bit about a red zone funny, especially when you have LI 2462, and now you're talking about...
Of course, the president has said it should be revoked.
Gentlemen, easy. Nanaya, let's hear you now. And especially, I don't know what this Edel Metallium Resources Limited, they do have to come out and clear their name. If indeed these gentlemen, these 10 armed people who attacked these journalists, work for them, then they have a lot to answer for.
Sweetie, you see, at this time, the kind of crisis in which we are, where government is not committed to fighting Galamsey, we are on our own. So it will be very unfortunate for any group of people to go to any mining site without police or military protection. Number two, I don't think the people even saw them as journalists. They saw them as invaders who have come to intrude in what they were.
But they knew they were journalists.
Sorry, Donko's activism has gone, years. I'm sure people...
Regardless of that, they always have gear that will let you know whether it is what they have on or the microphone.
When those people are there, they don't care who comes.
Yeah.
They don't know Erastus. Erastus, this thing has gone. But those there who are armed, who are not military nor soldier, but they are a the word is not coming, but
maybe
they are
paramilitary, whatever, or mercenaries.
They are not paramilitary. Maybe, yes, some kind of people, and they are there. They are
But Pogrive, I don't know why you are getting, we've had military officers face problems with Galamsey, so I don't know why you are getting a bit, military officers themselves have been involved, so let's not even go there.
So they are armed.
I don't understand
these people. Even how do they get the guns? They are not the military, they are not the police, and they are armed. So you don't have to go to these areas and take it for granted anymore, because they have become violent, and they've seen that there is some kind of resistance against them. So you see, I always say that MPP is not committed to fighting Galamsey. Everything that they are doing is just a charade. They just want to do something for us to see, so that we would think that they are serious. They are not serious. Because if they are really serious, they would know what is happening. They would try and protect. You see, when the military went there for 2 weeks, after a few days, the people were back with their champagnes and their... So you see, Nanado and his crew, with Baumia as the mate, are not committed.
Right.
At all.
Let's get into the news.
Everybody's aware that MPP.
I'll start with the Daily Guide newspaper.
In fighting illegal.
On the front page. It's okay, let's do the
It is very true.
Don't come and tell me.
We don't invent majority,
It is never
says
true.
Dr. Mahmoud Baumia as he takes a jab at NDC. Supreme Court vacates Speaker, reinstates 4 MPs. Kwewuhin not destooled, according to the Traditional Council. Police refute Bakavomawa assault allegations, and Nana launches National Service Authority. And there's a story here, Foreign Ministry rubbishes $38.2 million visa claim. Let's start from page 3. Obviously, I think the biggest story in the country right now. And it reads, Supreme Court vacates Speaker, reinstates 4 MPs. It reads, the Supreme Court last Friday set aside a decision by the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, to declare seats of 4 members of Parliament vacant. This was after the court, presided over by Chief Justice Gertrude Sakitokono, granted an ex parte interlocutory injunction filed by Majority Leader, or should I say Minority Leader right now, leader of the Minority Caucus in Parliament, Alexander Apenyo-Markin, a 5-member panel of the court, also comprising justices. We know who they are. Now, the joy of the Minority National Democratic Congress MPs was short-lived as they claimed to hold the majority in Parliament following the declaration by the Speaker, which sparked controversy. We all know the fallout from this, how, even the court was able to assemble judges in 24 hours and rule on this issue, or ask the Speaker's ruling to be stayed and all that. It makes for an interesting conversation in a political dispensation. But let me start with you, Dr. Pogre-Boachidankwa. You know the stories. Tomorrow, Parliament resumes, and we're all looking forward to see what happens. What do you make of this?
We have constitutional supremacy in this country. We don't have parliamentary supremacy as is practiced in other countries of the world. And I know very well that Parliament is a creation from the 1992 Constitution. The Articles 1, the interpretation of Article 97, 1G8, the interpretations of Article 135 and all of those. I just want to admonish the minority of the NDC in Parliament at the left wing to continue to remain the minority at that left wing and allow the majority democratically, lawfully elected by the Ghanaian people through the polling stations, constituency by constituency, sworn in.
Doc, hold on for me a second. How many members of Parliament do we have from the NDC side as we speak in Parliament? I mean, if we are going by the Speaker's ruling, which asks that those 4 seats be vacated.
I'm not going by the Speaker's ruling. There's
it's
no
a numbers game.
No, it's a numbers game. But there is no way.
Majority,
There is no way I'm going by the Speaker's ruling. I'm going by the supremacy of the Constitution. That is what we run in this country. If you had allowed me to finish my thoughts, that would have been good.
Go ahead.
So that's why I'm saying that we run a constitutional supremacy in this country. We don't run a parliamentary supremacy. The 1992 Constitution is very clear on that. There are case studies in reference, even Abdullahi versus the Attorney General 2022, Ampofo versus the Attorney General in the Republic as well, 2007. There are lots of cases and references to this. And I would admonish the minority who sits at the left wing, the NDC minority, to be matured enough to ensure that they do not take the laws into their hand. We run a democracy. We have enjoyed the serenity and the peace that we have had. It will be well on them to respect the rule of law. It will be well on them to respect the decision of the Ghanaian people as voted in the 2020 general election.
Right.
You can't cross carpet in one day and decide that you are majority when you have not earned it and worked for it.
All right, Nanaya, and it's not different from what Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is saying. Actually, let me just add a quote. He says, you don't sit in Parliament to manufacture a majority yourself. He emphasized stressing the importance of democratic processes and the need for political parties to earn their seats through legitimate processes. And he's saying that we don't invent majority. It's the same story.
You see,
Nanaya.
the magnanimity of the NDC sometimes is unnerving because they have allowed this illegality to fester. That is why today, see, when you have a dog and the dog is always around you, you allow the dog to lick around your lips, one day it will spit into your mouth. Do you get me? And this, it is so disgraceful, it is shameful that the NPP think they are the majority. What is the meaning of majority? You see, it is the Speaker of Parliament who, unfortunately, out of magnanimity and being nice and covering their disgrace, has allowed them to sit there and say they are majority. It is 137 plus 1. Sweetie, I always said this. If they had allowed this to happen and change the dynamics of Parliament, 137 plus 1. When you go to EC, it's 137 plus 1. There is no majority. It is so disgraceful that the MPP today will sit up and say, what is the meaning of majority? Somebody you didn't like, somebody you were insulting, went for independence, won, and said that he will do business with you. Doing business with you doesn't mean I'm adding up. You see, from the very beginning, there was an error. Doing business with you doesn't mean I am adding up. So the point is that only doing business and doing what? Voting with you on a matter.
But Nanaya, quick point to be made. In Parliament, you must caucus. There must be a majority and the minority.
You see,
hold for me. Let me just make the point, and then you continue. There must, for parliamentary business to go on,
it is not true.
There must be a majority and a minority. That is why.
No.
Can I at least land?
No, it's not true.
Can I land? If it's not true, you can respond.
Yes.
There must be a majority and a minority, which is why in many other jurisdictions you see that people come together to form whatever coalitions, like in Israel we have it now, so that then there can be a majority, so certain decisions, government business can continue. So these people decide to caucus. I understand where you come from.
I am saying,
but if we want to play that neutral route, there will be no majority and minority. Where will that leave us?
When this has happened, it is unique. It has not happened before. We have 137 and independent. So you change it. You shouldn't. There's nothing that is cut in stone. Then immediately you find a way around it. So you have in Parliament the opposition and government. Then one independent, you see, you need a majority at any particular point in time when there is a need to be a vote. So even when there is a vote on a bill, on an issue, on a matter, even people in the opposition side can vote for the bill. Do you get me? And immediately there is a majority for you to work with. And that is why you should lobby. So if you have a 137, it is a par. So you change all the word is not correct, but you change all the arrangements to suit the occasion, to suit the situation, so that we don't have some of these things. You see, I mean, typically, if we had known G and H, we wouldn't have allowed, what is his name, the former MP,
Esiama.
Yes, Esiama, to say that he's doing business with them. G and H, because immediately when it means he forfeited his independence. Do you get H? The H is very categorical.
Per what you're saying, he was just deciding to caucus with them on a number of issues, but he remained an independent candidate.
He didn't remain. He was with them. He said he would do business.
Yeah, but he wasn't a member of the MPP.
No, but now he's become a member. Because,
now you can say he is because he's on the ticket.
Ben, you see, if they had done things right, he wouldn't have thought erroneously that he could join MPP. He would have still remained independent. Do you get me?
And that is why I say that I understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
But there are other technicalities. And I feel that may also be why the Supreme Court should deal with this matter expeditiously. My problem with the Supreme Court, and I have to say it, is that in some instances, especially, I don't want to say at the behest of government, but in some cases, you would see the rapidity, the swiftness with which the apex court will act. In other instances, we don't see that.
Ben, you see,
if this issue is going to, and now they are saying that, while some say it is contrary to the law, it's going to be beyond the 10-day window, then deal with it expeditiously and let Parliament go ahead with its work as soon as possible.
Went for an interpretation. And Paul Grave is telling me supremacy of the Constitution. If you are talking
that interpretation has actually not been.
That is what he didn't go that the order should. Yes, no, but he went and said he was going to. They should interpret to him these two clauses to mean whether it is the coming Parliament or it is this current Parliament. That's what everybody is talking about. But there's no interpretation to these two clauses. But you see me, I'm not a lawyer, but I know that whenever there is a shall, it is mandatory. Whenever there's a shall, and this thing has not been interpreted, we don't know what it means, and there's a stay of execution. Okay, what about the people themselves who are in
But
this?
even a shall is still open to interpretation.
Yeah, but have they told us what it means?
That is what we await.
Yeah, but you see, when they came to end the matter, you just say that this is what this means. Do you get me? So, Honorable Bagman cannot do, Honorable Bagman cannot do ABCD because these clauses means this. We don't know what it means. For me, this is the supremacy of the Constitution. It is clear. If you are independent and you go and join another party, you are off. It is here, H. I don't need anybody to show me. Right. But they said they need interpretation. But where is the interpretation? That is what we need right now. As long as there is no interpretation, you will take this G and H, and it is clear. It is. I mean,
to be fair to the court, though, since it went by route of an ex parte, then they have to work expeditiously on delivering it. At least the stay has been given on the ruling, the purported ruling, because that even comes into question, which feeds into this article here in the Today newspaper, Kwame Ekufu faulting the Supreme Court over vacant seats ruling. It's convoluted. All I'm saying, for me, like you're saying, go down to it. You've delivered the stay for now. Within this window, I believe the same way other things have been expeditiously dealt
I'm
with.
asking you
it can be dealt with.
I am asking you that this interpretation, couldn't it have come like just 2 days, 3 days?
You would have to ask, Madam, the Supreme Court.
Later on in our big story. So let me quickly
others.
run through the headlines in this paper, and then I'll move on to you, Dr. Pogwe Bachidankwa. Nana launches National Service Authority. This is the Daily Guide still. We don't invent majority. The Parliament's brouhaha, when politics feels like a child's tantrum, the gods have made them mad. The story here about police refutes Bakavomawa assault allegation. Kwewihin not destood according to traditional council. Please come down for me. Foreign Ministry rubbishes $38.2 million visa claim. And so many other stories here in the Daily Guide. You can pick a copy for yourself and get into it. For the sake of time, I'm just skipping to Paul Grave. Let's do your paper now.
Paul Grave, before you come in, there's this issue, and it borders on human rights. Oliver Barker-Vormawor, I read Felicity Nelson on social media saying she had paid him a visit, and the way he's been moved, and he's been sick and beaten up. And yes, the story is saying they are refuting it, but are you concerned about something like this happening at a time like this, looking at especially our fourth Republican journey, human rights, the president we have, and things like this, even after he's been granted bail, still in incarceration, and the beatings that supposedly he is getting. And even the comment from his mom, that was what broke my heart. She says, if these supposed 8 commandos could beat him in the day, is it at night that they can't do something to my son? Is it, I'm not necessarily saying all of that may be right, but I'm saying, are we even concerned about the fact that, because, you see, we are sitting here on TV looking shepe and everything. Someday, it could be one of us. The same way Rastus has been beaten, the same way it's happening to Oliver Barker-Vormawor. It could be any of us on any day. Are we concerned about that?
I was concerned as every Ghanaian. As a human rights lover, I'm as concerned as every Ghanaian. We would have to wait for the police to bring out the full facts of it on Oliver Barker-Vormawor. I would wish him the best as he's being dealt with in accordance to the law. The new publisher.
You wish him the best as he's being dealt with according to the law. Is that what you just said?
Yes, that's what I said.
Okay. I pray.
The new publisher.
I pray.
My son did not kill anyone with a gun. Stop the noise. Bishop Salifo Amwako, Yepaucho. Why? Don't talk like this.
I think we've dealt with that issue, so let's move on.
Hey, Benjamin, allow me to read my front.
No, I'm saying, sir, I've told you because of time, but we've spoken extensively on it. And you are starting to talk on it again. So
I'm reading the things on my front page.
Okay, go
you
ahead.
Brought in Vormawor. That was not a time. Now, hey, my son did not kill anyone with a gun. Stop the noise. Bishop Salafo Amaka, please stop talking. MPP still majority as court stops Bagbin from sacking 4 MPs. And I agree. We are the majority. The Kufuor establishes National Service Authority. Initiative saves Ghana about 3 billion Ghana cedis annually. The police says that we haven't beaten Oliver Barker-Vormawor. You can get a story. Gabi Otredako says, avoid chaos and anarchy on Tuesday, advises Parliament. Bring back street lights over here. Kwame Owusu winner. I like everything in the paper today. Free SHS quality has improved. NAPO. I'm going through page by page. JSE, I think Ghana Stock Exchange fixed income market grows on bonds and treasury bills. Bank Association offers 7 proposals. Yes, Osla, the Minister for Communications and Utilization, at 60 years old at Thanksgiving. This is very troubling. UK deports 44 Nigerians, Ghanaians in a single flight. I'm interested in that story, so I'll just quickly read a few things. In a record-breaking deportation flight, it has been alleged that 44 Nigerians and Ghanaians were forcibly removed from the UK on Friday, marking a significant surge in immigration enforcement. According to the guardian.com/UK, the Home Office confirmed the action as part of broader crackdown on immigration, which has seen the deportation of over 3,600 people since Labour government came into power in July. Well, that would be all for my newspaper.
Nanaya, if you have some thoughts on any of these stories, otherwise let's do your paper then.
And please, they have to be very brief so that we can do your papers as well.
I should do.
I mean, if you have any reactions to what he's read, briefly. If not, then please go straight into your stories.
They are just, I mean, Voma's issue is sad, but and look at what he's saying, that the court will deal with him accordingly. You beat somebody in this day and age when the president...
Nanaya, like I said...
The police has refuted it.
We are all in this country, so maybe someday
no,
if it goes someone's way...
Yes.
Police has refuted it.
You see, the things we say when someone is in a certain situation, someday if it happens to you, then
and we have a president who prides himself as a human rights lawyer.
This has nothing to do with the president.
But he's in charge. Is he not in charge?
The police said he has not been beaten.
Is he sitting somewhere?
The police said he has not been beaten.
So we should take the police.
The Ghana Police Service is beyond reproach.
And
that's not what anybody
says.
The mother is saying that he has been assaulted.
He has not been beaten.
Nanaya.
Let's continue.
Police is here.
Let's
leave this.
Kwawuhine
still a post. We had all the brouhaha last week. An unnecessary constitutional crisis, NDC caucus defies Supreme Court. Battle fist cuffs expected in Parliament this week. Yes, they are standing for their rights. The Constitution is very clear. Let us keep working hard for decisive victory in... I'm so strong because of my Ashanti spirit, Alan. I guess Alan is in the Ashanti region, and he's talking about his relationship. An unnecessary constitutional crisis, NDC caucus defies Supreme Court. I'm so strong, okay, I've done. Magdam partners with GPHA to enhance marine transport and logistics in Ghana. CD crosses 16 cedis to $1. Wow.
But why are you doing wow? It's been, anyway, I don't know.
Very depressing. Very depressing. Justice should, that is the editorial for the Searchlight. Justice should be the non-negotiable commodity in ensuring endurable peace. Justice is key. Justice in every manner. You see, the MPP, when you see what is going on, that is the way they want to manipulate the 2024 election.
That's not true.
It will not happen.
That is not true.
It will not happen.
You are interjecting too much. When you get interjected, you have a problem. Let her land.
But I didn't say anything. That is how they want to do it.
Go ahead.
Would you marry someone with kids? Okay, that's Isis corner. I don't know. Yes, of course. And the kids are wonderful. Beirut rocked by, and this is becoming a bit problematic. I think Netanyahu should just sit back a bit and reflect on what is going on. I think the war is now getting out of hand.
Well, there's a lot going on. Do you know Bibi's, well, that's how they affectionately call him, Bibi.
No, Bibi, yeah.
Do you know his residence was targeted by a drone recently?
Oh, okay, from...
in a purported assassination attempt. There are so many, I follow this keenly, so let's leave it. We can't start that conversation.
No, we can't, but I'm saying that they should, look at it, because it's now getting out of hand. And President Anado commissioned State of the Art Geology and Nephrology Center of Excellence. That is a very good one. That's a very good one, considering that, oh, please, I beg you. UPDN condemns Honorable Afenyo Markin's attack on Joy FM. We should have some media freedom. The MPP should stop attacking the media. That is this market shares commissioned by Banda Boase, Chief. Upgrade Wenchi Agricultural College to university status. Osajefo and Pemanye Amwa Bon the Third. I'll give Ghanaians minimum wage of 150,000, 150 cedis, 300 cedis. Well, I thought I saw 150 cedis a day.
So 150 to 300 cedis.
Depending on your, okay, that is his promise. Let's see. Wildaf joins global community to mark International Day of the Girl Child. MPP's beauty contestants in Parliament are going to wake up to reality. And which one is there? Okay, let me read this one and see what's here. There is something interesting I have noticed about the set of, men and women. Oh, I think that's okay. If they are doing a beauty contest there, Amma donates 1,500 dual decks to improve learning. That is a very good one. We need to, help with learning. We didn't assault Oliver. Okay. Kumaru Hine, Viva Umia commissions phase 2 of Chatadu hydropower plants. Let us keep working hard for decisive victory in December. Why I brokered peace between Lumba and Great Ampon, Archbishop, I don't think what. Kanye West.
Nanaya, for the sake of time, we can't look at all the stories. So
yeah, I'm done. But Paul Grave went through everything. You didn't stop him.
It's not exactly what we should be doing.
He kept interjecting.
I got to the middle page.
It's not true. That's true.
Well, I'll quickly do my headlines. The Today newspaper, Ndum encourages and supports Edinaman SHS. Kwame Akufo falls Supreme Court over vacant seats ruling. Groundnut Growers Association honors Ndum. I'll just do the Kwame Akufo story briefly. NLA unveils refurbished ultramodern Brennan Hall. SC, that is the Supreme Court, overturns Bagbane's ruling after forcing insists he won't obey court orders. Dasebre Ekwamoye Japong II refused distillment claims. That has to do with the ADB issue. And Akufo-Addo launches National Service Authority initiatives, saves Ghana 3 billion Ghana cedis annually. That's what is said. I'll just do, like I said, the Kwame Akufo story, and I'm done. Private legal practitioner Kwame Akufo has faltered the legal proceedings surrounding the recent vacant parliamentary seat saga, particularly highlighting the inconsistencies in the application of legal principles by the Supreme Court. According to him, the court's decision in the case of Alexander Afenyo-Markin's application for stay of execution was not only procedurally flawed, but also lacked the necessary legal foundation. I can't go through all of it because it's a lengthy piece. You can grab a copy of the paper. It's also online. But the application, he argued, was based on the Speaker of Parliament's declaration of the seats as vacant, which is not a judicial order. And he was clear in his assessment, a party cannot seek an application for stay of execution in respect of a matter which is not a judgment or a court order. The Speaker's order is not of such. You can, like I said, grab the details from there. Before, I have some birthday messages, but final comments before we go. Paul Grave, starting with you.
Oh, today is the birthday of my executive secretary, Esther Obridanso. So I wish her a happy birthday, long life, good health, and prosperity.
Secretary of where?
Oh, my secretary in my office.
Ah,
yes.
Okay.
And to tell Parliament that tomorrow, let's see some high level of maturity, especially from the side, both sides actually, both majority of the MPs.
You see, you nearly got caught.
And allow me to Benjamin.
Everything must be MPP, NDC.
No, not at all.
MPP
not at all.
in your
not
eyes
at all.
are glorified.
No,
everything.
No, not at all. No,
it sounds like what?
No, it does not.
It sounds like what?
What's his name?
Gihog Distillery.
No, it does not.
Juma
not at
went
all.
on air to go and say. I mean,
I'm a very objective person.
But anyway,
very objective.
Allow
me to give my final thoughts.
Right, but because of time. Yeah. Nanaya, wrap up your thoughts for us.
You see, we have separation of powers in this country. The judiciary, the executive. If one makes a decision according to the Constitution, which Paul Gray says is the supreme law of the land, I don't see why we should be having all these problems. Besides, where are the people who are affected? This is a Paris coup because they mistreated the Suhum MP and Morrison, Madam Cynthia Morrison, and the Formina MP2 didn't understand erroneously.
Right.
He just decided to be. See, when you follow MPP, you'll be in trouble.
Okay, Nanaya. I just want to say that the opinions of our guests are theirs and not a reflection of us, Joy News or the multimedia group. I just feel like I should put this out because things are flying all over the place. It's their opinions, that not for Joy News, not for Suti Abochi, not for Benjamin Akako. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, birthday messages. Dr. Vincent Akolo, today happens to be your birthday. Dr. Vincent Akolo, trauma and orthopedic surgeon at the Bank Hospital. We salute you. We celebrate you this morning. Dr. Vincent
Dr.
Akolo.
Vincent,
and secondly, You know him?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so happy birthday to him.
Yeah,
and then happy birthday, 60th birthday to Agnes Aframia Osafun team. Agnes Aframia Osafun team of Fun Tissue. May the Lord bless you. May he gift you long life and prosperity, more grace and money as well. It's from Awo, your sister Babia, and David Vo. They say they love you. And so, Mama Agnes, happy birthday to you. That's how we cap it off. Thank you, Dr. Paul Grebe-Boachedankwa. He is government spokesperson on governance and security. He also is a reverend minister. Nanaya Achimpimjantwa was asking which church she was asking me. Baptist. Okay. All right. This is Nanaya Achimpimjantwa.
I'm also a Baptist.
But you're my auntie.
Former General Secretary.
You're my auntie.
The CPP. And of course, we also had
you're my auntie.
My own in-house guest, Sweetie Abochi. And yours truly on that beat. Sports is up next. Do stay. We'll be right back.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AM Sports here with me, Muftao Nabila Abdullahi. Ghana Black Satellites secured their first win in the ongoing CAF Under-20 African Cup of Nations qualifiers happening in Togo. The Satellites won 2-0 against Niger.
Attention la frappe! Quelle frappe! Quelle frappe lointaine! Mais regardez! Oh là là! Il a eu cette chance de mettre son pied directement sur le ballon, pratiquement à 26 mètres des cages de Souleymane Boubacar Yakouba, et qui le retrouve au fond des filets. Ça fait 1-0. 1-0 pour le Ghana.
Pour le Ghana, depuis la 64e minute de jeu, je le disais, ce portier ghanéen fait trop de fautes de main. Il a fait une mauvaise sortie, bien trouvée par l'attaquant ghanéen, Moussoubou Aziz de Inter Elias. Inter Elias, of course, du Ghana, qui a frappé une frappe instantanée, et voilà, qui a retrouvé les cadres. 1-0 pour le Ghana, suite à cette faute, la sortie hasardeuse du portier Souleymane. Et voilà, 1-0 pour le Ghana depuis la 64e minute de jeu. 1 pour le Ghana, 0 pour le Niger. Encore.
Attention, attention, il gagne toujours le ballon. Il est dû, il va servir. Il va servir, qu'est-ce qu'il va faire? Et voilà le deuxième but! Le deuxième but ici, au stade municipal de Lomé. Oh, on peut dire que complètement ce match est plié par le Ghana. On peut le dire ainsi. Mais quelle action de but! Quelle action de but!
To the Ghana Premier League now, and Sumasi Asante Kotoko extended their unbeaten run in the ongoing Ghana Premier League to March Day 7 when they secured a 1-0 win against defending champions, Samatex. Samatex supporters accused Kumasi Asante Kotoko faithfuls of through pelting their bars and breaking their windshield. Let's hear from some of the fans and the bars that they claim was broken by the fans of Kumasi Asante Kotoko.
You're still watching the AM show, but right before we get into our big stories, take note of these important pieces of information, starting with Medicas Hospital, a modern healthcare facility built with your recovery in mind, serious wards built with your family in mind, says they have created a warm and caring pediatric unit built with your children in mind. We've also assembled some of the brightest minds in medicine, led by Dr. Ya Osafo, the drive-time doctor, to serve you. And we offer general medical services as well as specialist services in plastic surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, child health, urology, psychiatry, that is mental health, and eye care. Additionally, we offer a comprehensive medical diagnostic service encompassing endoscopy, medical laboratory services, x-rays, and scans. A 24-hour pharmacy ensures you will always receive efficacious, safe, and affordable medicines. We bring you the most powerful medicine of all, simple human kindness and empathy. We take pride in holding ourselves to the highest attainable standards, and we accept all forms of payment, including from private health insurance companies. You can locate Medicas Hospital at number 10 Kinso Street near Ashalibuche School Junction, or you can simply call 0501 477 340. Or reach us out on social media at Medicas GH across all platforms. Medicas Hospital, a place of healing. Benjamin will tell you more.
Well, I'm going to be telling you about Syntex. And Ghana, if you're not ready, get ready for the biggest giveaway from Syntex Tank. Syntex is visiting 15 communities, giving them free water gratis. And this is to say thank you, Ghana, for making us #1. Did you know Syntex was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana? Did you also know that Syntex tanks came in so many colors and was actually the first to come out with inner white layers? Well, there's still more. If it's not Syntex, you might as well forget about it. Now, if you're a community and you want to benefit from the Syntex free water giveaway, just log on to their social media handles, that is at Syntex Ghana, and nominate your community. The more you nominate, the better the chances of Syntex coming to that community. And remember, it is Syntex, S-I-N-T-E-X, Syntex tank. No be any tank be tanko. The correct tank be Syntex tank. Syntex tank, are you strong, are you tough? Well, this morning, we continue with our conversations on our streets of despair. At just 5 years old, Ernest Opoku was forced to abandon his dreams of becoming a doctor, told to quit school and rear livestock instead. In a similarly tragic twist, Kofi Appiah also found himself on the streets, fleeing the neglect he faced at home. In today's episode of Streets of Despair, Clinton Yeboah explores the stories of these survivors whose lives reflect the harsh realities of family abandonment.
Here is Ernest, but that's not his birth name. Born as Opoku Somi in the Wa Municipal District in Ghana's Upper West region, the then 16-year-old changed his name to shed the memories of neglect and rejection he has endured from his own family. At an ambitious age of 5, he was told blatantly to quit school and rear sheep and goats. A young boy convinced of becoming a medical doctor in the future. Now at 30, he tells a story of hardship and abandonment from family. So my young siblings were allowed to go to school, but I was not. I resisted my exemption. I cried. His life took a dramatic turn when he had to forgo his ambition and survive as a trotro mate, enduring long hours and sheltering in the bars for 5 long years.
5 years also.
5 years and I had still not been taught how to drive. I realized I was wasting time.
At least,
Through his disappointment, a helper came along with a tricycle to work with. Ernest makes a livelihood carrying loads throughout the day to feed himself and his nuclear family. I can say the man has been a savior. Left to my family alone, my life would have been stale. A cobbler, Kofi Boateng, makes way through the crowd trying to spot dirty shoes. His situation mirrors Ernest in several ways. His dream of becoming a professional chef was crushed when financial struggles and family neglect pushed him into looking for means to survive as a shoemaker. I couldn't continue after I trained as a chef, so I stopped to scout for a livelihood with no support at all. The family support was one-sided, and I received none.
Support me, I was in the room, but I go to one side. So I will one side in, one side, and not quite side. So one side, and I was not quite side. Get in a view of the but young few. When I'm more if a couple of.
Under a cold weather, without shelter, he passes the night under the Asafo Fort Bridge against security vulnerabilities. His determination affords him the opportunity to hawk his cobbling in the bustling markets of Asafo to cater for his children who are far from him. Kofi has his own advice for the youth. Womanizing and bad company are such killers of good life. I faced same growing up, and that is my advice to young people. The phenomenon of streetism has been majorly fueled by family neglect and social pressures. On the streets of Kumasi, many of these children are growing without guidance, shelter, and security. The long-term effects are devastating. Professor Kojo Oforidua is an associate professor at the Department of Sociology and Social Work at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology.
And so we realize that there are multiplicity of factors: broken homes, neglected parents, abusive rural urban migration, poverty, and a whole lot of. So the question that we ask ourselves is, how do we solve these issues? The social welfare is supposed to be, as I think, should lead in this. Unfortunately for them too, they also have problems. because, as I said, some of them are run away, some of them are abandoned, some of them are missing. This group of people, when they take them, they should have a shelter where they can keep them and manage them, ensure that they go to school. And the question is, how many shelters we have in Ghana on these big cities? So to do that, I think that from where I sit, we need to strengthen the social welfare department or the ministry so that they can play their role towards these children who are found on the street. There are a lot of children who are, for instance, as I said, those who are born on the street, they are supposed to take them away and keep them in shelters. In some countries, such children are become, for lack of better words, government property, and therefore governments have to take them and make sure that they go to school, keep them in shelter, feed them, and ensure that all what they need to grow up. But the social welfare department itself is not adequately resourced. We also need to engage in public education. It looks to me that some people may not know the harmful effect of streetism.
Reporting for Joy News, my name is Clinton Yeboah.
Welcome back from the streets of despair, where we get into the studio of hope. And we hit our big stories. A showdown is expected in the Legislative House this week as the NDC, I don't know whether to say minority, but the NDC vows to jealously guard its new status in Parliament as the majority, owing to a decision by Speaker Alban Bagbin to declare 4 seats vacant, setting Parliament and the judiciary on some sort of collision course days after the Supreme Court placed a stay of execution on the decision by the Speaker of Parliament to activate, we know it, Article 97, 1G, and if you want to extend it, H of the Constitution to declare the 4 seats vacant. The question, how do we navigate this legal gridlock and constitutional conundrum with its far-reaching ramifications for the governance of this fledgling democracy? And yes, if you want to compare our democracy to others, we're still a fledgling democracy. We unpack the issues this morning with our guests joining us in the studio. We have Amanda Clinton, she's a lawyer. We also have Kweku Paintel, he's also a lawyer. And I always say my special guest, Sweetie Abochi, yet to be a lawyer.
Sure.
So I'm forecasting, I'm looking into the future.
Well,
so
let's
we
see
have
how that goes.
An all-lawyer panel.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and you're a student of law. So, yeah, I'll be steering the conversation for you as citizens while they do the legal part. But Kweku Asante, our parliamentary affairs correspondent, was in Parliament throughout the entire proceedings and filed this report. We'll take a look and then we'll come back in the studio to discuss.
On Thursday, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin delivered a ruling, or what some have said was a declaration, that effectively made the NDC group in Parliament the majority caucus in the House. But 24 hours after that, the Supreme Court ruled to stay the execution of that ruling by the Speaker of Parliament. The NDC MPs, however, say that the Speaker of Parliament did no wrong and they will resist any plan to push them back into the minority.
For the avoidance of doubt, the Speaker's decisions to declare the 4-seat vacant is lawful exercise of his responsibilities derived from the 1992 Constitution and the Standing Orders of Parliament. The effect of the Speaker's declaration is that currently we no longer have an independent member of Parliament. The MPP has 135 members of Parliament only. The NDC has 136 members of Parliament, and there is no second Deputy Speaker of Parliament. We will jealously protect our new majority status and will not bow, retreat, nor surrender our lawfully earned status.
Dr. Cassia Latoforsen, who is the NDC leader in Parliament, has been announcing the plans that the NDC group have if they stay in the majority, including to repeal the e-levy and the betting tax.
It is indeed true that we will use our new majority numbers to benefit Ghanaians by introducing private members' bill to remove the e-levy and to reduce the suffering of the people of Ghana. Yes. It is also true that we will use our new majority to remove the betting tax and other nuisance taxes. Yes. We stand with him, pledge our support, and urge him to protect the dignity and sanctity of the Parliament of Ghana. In the same vein, we call on Ghanaians to stand by the Speaker and resist oppressors' rule. From day one, we have not reneged on our fight for the people of Ghana.
When asked specifically about this Supreme Court ruling, Mahama Yariga, the NDC MP for Boku Central, says, until and unless the Speaker of Parliament comes to the floor and informs them that that is the new course of action, they will still consider themselves as the majority.
We are not aware of any law or any constitutional provision that enables anybody to suspend a decision of the Speaker in Parliament properly constituted. Be that as it may, we as parliamentarians act on the basis of communication coming to us from the Speaker. We don't hear things in the news and act on them, or side copies of records of proceedings in any court on social media and act on them. We act on the basis of communication coming to us from the Right Honorable Speaker. And if that communication says we should walk into the sea, we walk into the sea, because we listen only to the Speaker and nobody else in relation to the integrity, the legality, and the appropriateness of what has happened in the chamber of Parliament.
On Tuesday, the House is set to resume after it adjourned last Thursday, and it's going to be a showdown because both sides are now carrying themselves as the majority in Parliament. But of course, the majority can't only be one side, and it is only one side that can sit on the right-hand side of the Speaker. But with both the NDC and the NPP pushing themselves onto that right side, it is left to be seen what exactly is going to happen then, with even claims now from the NDC MPs that certain soldiers are set to be deployed to the precincts of Parliament on Tuesday when the House resumes. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
So there you have it, and we have our lawyers in the studio. It's a great panel today to help us discuss this surgically, like Benjamin would like to say. But let's first start with your quick thoughts or reflections on all of this. There are about 4 issues at play here. The Speaker's authorities come in question, judicial oversight, impact on governance, and what the shift in democracy means for our balance of power. Let me start with you, Amanda. Where do you sit in all of this?
I think that parliamentary privilege means that the internal matters of Parliament are beyond the purviews of the courts. And it's clearly stated, Article 115, that there shall be freedom of speech, debate and proceedings in Parliament, and that freedom shall not be impeached or questioned in any court or place out of Parliament. Furthermore, that even for the Speaker to appear before the court or any member to appear, the Speaker has to write their consent. So it's only with that consent. So very much, I think this is going to be an impasse in terms of, you know, the Supreme Court has asserted their power, and should the Speaker not adhere, then they might cite him in contempt, and he similarly can cite any member of the judiciary, including the Supreme Court and everyone under Article 122, and he can hold any member of the judiciary in contempt. So it's going to be an impasse for sure. And I do think that NDC should hold on to this majority. And I'm being impartial here, but only because of what took place in 2020, where there was that one vote, Formosa vote, that meant that the NPP were the majority. And so NDC had to yield to that decision, despite the fact that they didn't like it very much. Okay. And so they're following precedent, they're following the standing orders, and they're following the Constitution. So I think they should hold, basically.
An impasse. Mr. Pencil.
I fundamentally disagree with my learned friend over just about everything she said. We practice a constitutional democracy that's got 3 arms of government. And each of them is separate with specific constitutional duties or obligations. And they are separate. And it is only the Supreme Court that's got the power and the authority to pronounce on the Constitution in terms of its enforcement and everything that goes with it. And particularly, any part of the Constitution which requires an interpretation has to be done by the Supreme Court. Now, what has happened in this case is that we've got a parliament that purports to put a meaning and interpretation on a part of the Constitution dealing with the vacancy of a parliamentary seat. Now, when you go to Article 99(1), that power to declare a parliamentary seat vacant is reserved only for the High Court of the Republic of Ghana. So in the light only, I mean, I've got a lot of reasons, but in the light only of Article 99(1) of the 1992 Constitution, Parliament cannot set it up to say that they are declaring somebody a non-parliamentarian, when that duty has specifically been reserved for the High Court of the Republic of Ghana. Besides, like I've said, the issue at stake now is the interpretation that is being put upon Sections G and H of Article 97. Yeah. It's an interpretation because the meaning does not come out. I have a different meaning. Other people have different meanings. Now, as it is now, we've got a parliament that is equally divided upon what interpretation ought to be placed on those 2 sections of the Constitution.
So you think we should seek to the Supreme Court to
Naturally.
clarify?
I do agree with my learned colleague and senior. In terms of substantial constitutional interpretation requires hearings. The only difference in this situation, however, is that a stay of execution has been granted. And this is a fresh suit, and yet a stay of execution is ordinarily for, a court decision. And so with this stay of execution, it renders the court's final decision moot. And I say this because although the Attorney General, I think, made a claim for like 10 days, that his interim thing was only going to be for 10 days, the court decided that until they decide this final matter, their decision stands. But by the time the matter goes, they finally decide, it will probably be the election time. And so all seats will be rearranged, which makes the matter before them moot. Do you see what I mean? So this is why we avoid using things like stay of executions for substantial constitutional interpretations. And should this precedent now be set, every future executive can do such a thing, which in turn undermines, the rule of law, separation of powers, which is why they should all be separated in the first place.
Then,
Mr. Paintel,
yes,
a few thoughts.
Yeah.
So you say, and I was listening to your words, purports to put a meaning.
Sure, you're
right?
right. Yes.
Do you think what the Speaker did was a ruling? I mean, I just want a quick thought on that. There's been a banter, the NDC, the MPP, that it was a ruling he delivered. Do you think that was a ruling? That was an order?
Whatever it is, a form of verdict, call it whatever, a verdict, judgment, ruling, decision, whatever it is, the meaning of it is not lost on Ghanaians, which is that he had declared a certain state of affairs, which in his view ought to be ruling, which ought to be the case for us as a country, yes.
Right. So you say it purports to put a meaning on what should happen, but Parliament has, so to speak, already established this meaning. On the face of the law, I have a simple understanding that this means that once you cross carpet, and we know of the history of this from the Nkrumah era, once you trigger certain actions, there will be likely reactions based on whether you are independent and now you've decided to move to this side. In fact, this morning, Naya Jantua was even suggesting that it shouldn't even be with the numbers we have. There's no majority, there's no minority, because it was 137 apiece, with that extra person being the second deputy speaker, the Fomena MP. So it should have remained technically like that. I was trying to explain to her that there must be some majority minority for government business to run. But on the back of this precedent that was set in 2020 with Speaker Michael Quay, and with the fact that I don't know whether the accusation then would be that, oh, because the other side then didn't contest it, so it had to go. Because I felt logically it flowed that in similar situations, there would be, though this is not a court of law, there would be that precedent applied. So then where does this leave us? Because in responding to Afenyo-Markin's request, this injunction has been granted, but the substance of what Afenyo-Markin took to the court has not been dealt with yet. Do you get what I mean? Where does this leave us in terms of the meaning and everything? People are saying 10 days. Now they are saying we'll go on till the court rules, which, like she's saying, could be only God knows when the court rules. I mean, where does that leave all of us?
Yeah, I agree with you. Everything that you've said. But the point of the matter is that at every point in time, there must be some certainty, there must be some understanding, there must be some agreement as to, because like you said, talking about what you call the speaker rule, the speaker's ruling is clear, it's beyond a shadow of doubt. I dispute the fundamental basis of the speaker's rule on the basis of the very articles that we have referred to.
97, 1G and 8.
That is so. Number two, as you have rightly said, the Speaker Okoye made a ruling. Even the facts of that case are not on the same force as this one. In other words, if my understanding is right, you may correct me if I'm right. In that case, that MP purported, or rather resigned from the party, or the party dismissed him, whichever is. The party dismissed him, and on the basis of that dismissal, now gave notice to the Speaker that this man is no longer a member of our party. The interesting scenario we have here is that all these 4 MPs who have a right to resign, they've not resigned. Number two, each of these parties has a right to dismiss them. They have not dismissed. If any of these 2 actions were taken, that would put finality to this issue. So now we have the situation where these people, for all purposes, are parliamentarians, which differs significantly from the situation that you have described. But beyond and besides, Parliament can agree, once they are there, to agree to any way they want to go on with their business. But as long as any decision that they take affects anybody's right, in other words, way back the time that Michael Quay took that decision, anybody could have gone to court to check the interpretation of it. So therefore, we cannot be held. That cannot be a precedent that will hold all Ghanaians. Meaning, you know, when the gentleman was speaking, his case is that even if he said we should go and run into the sea, I think he said something to that effect. They will do it as long as it comes to a speaker. It cannot be so as a matter of law. It does not mean that the speaker can virtually turn himself into a judge of the Supreme Court, or the Supreme Court itself, now to give interpretation that will bind not only Parliament, but Ghanaians. Because don't forget that these people, these parliamentarians, they have a constituency. They have a people who put them there.
Yeah,
and the people who have a right.
There, if you look at Honorable Isiama, for example, he went as an independent candidate.
Yes.
And people would often say that, oh, is he representing the interests of the people? He decided to caucus with the MPP once he got into Parliament, right? But if he's now going, he's leaving his independent candidacy. And the people voted for him because he was independent, because they wanted him, not the MPP candidate. Is he then representing the interests of the people who voted for him?
The difference is that when you become a parliamentarian, you are not a parliamentarian for only the people who voted you into office.
I get that point.
And of course, if he's there, we don't know what he has with his own people. But it is for his people, whether the people who voted for him, who nobody knows, or for the constituency to make a decision with regard to the fact that we went there as an independent and subsequently decided to caucus with the MPP. It is for the constituents to take, to take a decision on how to deal with their parliamentarian. But what is happening here now is that somebody sitting in Parliament decides that your parliamentarian that is here has taken this decision, which in our view, but let me go to my fundamental objection to what is going on now, that these parliamentarians who are there, I want to do it analogous reasoning. It's part of interpretation of the law that you do analogous reasoning. Two examples that readily comes to mind. First, contract of employment. In a contract of employment, there is an opportunity for a person to leave the job subject to giving notice. When you give notice 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is, at all material time during the period of the notice, you are still an employee. Nobody is going to say that because you are given this intention to resign from this job, you are no longer an employee. So what these people have done, against the backdrop of an election which is about 2 months away, is to give notice that, let me tell you, that in this 2 months' time, 3 months from hence, if I win the election, I do not intend to be part of you.
I do agree with my senior that this is sort of fact-finding in terms of the Speaker came to a decision based on facts, etc. But since all of us sitting here are lawyers and, you know, soon-to-be lawyers, etc., the plain meaning of Article 97G includes the words to join another party or seeks to remain in Parliament as an independent member. So if you are not NDC and you are not NPP and you are running for president, I think it is expressly stated that you are independent. Furthermore, come what may tomorrow, when I think they resume, etc., should the Supreme Court exercise their right to hold the Speaker in contempt, you know, the Speaker can likewise hold any member of that panel, including all of them, and the Chief Justice in contempt under Article 122, which emphasizes that acts or omissions amounting to interference with parliamentary proceedings can be treated as contempt in Parliament, particularly because this is following established practices in Parliament. So we can all, you know, differ in our opinions. So the bottom line is this is an impasse because, you know, once the Supreme Court has triggered this, should they further trigger it with contempt proceedings, you know, he can likewise, you know, trigger contempt proceedings. And we have the longest democracy on the continent of Africa. So I think all parties should think very long and hard about what transpires tomorrow and what other forces will be available.
Just for clarity, before you come in, Ben, please, let me do this. So you yourself just said that these people have not resigned. Naturally, the interpretation that you just gave from Article 97, Clause 1G and the rest says it mandates MPs to vacate their seats if they leave their party or choose to run as independent candidates. And they had declared that intention, yet they didn't take the step to resign. The Speaker of Parliament is the leader of Parliament. The Supreme Court cannot tell Parliament how to do their business. So who does it fall to see to it that this Article 97, Clause 1G and H is implemented to ensure that these 4 people who've declared their intention to run as independent candidates or leave their parties, who does it fall to ensure that this is actually done?
See, my basic point is that a declaration of intent does not amount to actualizing the intent. In other words, they've given notice. And like the example that I gave to you about the employment contract. If you give notice to Joy FM...
But it's not the same, is it?
No, but I'm talking about analogous reasoning.
Okay.
If you give notice to Joy FM that in 2 months' time you don't want to be working here, it does not mean you've left. In a marriage, I mean, I'm giving you another example. In a contract of marriage, the law is clear that it is only a court of law that can pronounce on the dissolution of a marriage. And however long a matter stays in court, the marriage is not dissolved until a court of law has made a pronouncement on the issue.
Right,
and
Benjamin.
therefore, it is not a disagreement, it's not a confusion, it's not a trouble that is in a marriage, but it is what the court of law ought to do before you can say that the marriage has been dissolved.
And yet he's the king of his house. You see what I mean? We have to understand that the Speaker, this is his domain. He's the king of the house, so he was merely informing them about vacancies available. So where does the buck stop in terms of who is to decide whether, on the facts, the vacancy is available? He took that decision because he has the authority and the power as vested in the Constitution. And so thereafter, it is not for another arm of government, hence the term separation of powers, so there is not this sort of imbalance. sort of thing. So, I mean, we can argue it from a legal perspective, etc. But the bottom line is, this is where power lies. And if one arm decides to exercise power, the other arm will surely respond, which could leave Ghana in quite a situation.
I want lovely Amanda, please, if you don't mind, if you don't mind, I want lovely Amanda to place what she has said within the context of Article 99 of the Constitution, which expressly states that a member of Parliament can only leave his seat upon a pronouncement of the High Court. I mean, how do you place it?
I mean, I don't know whether Article 99, we keep talking about, it's not as though the courts were the only ones that would be able to determine parliamentary work. You know, it reminds me of the, the academic immunity that lecturers enjoy. Once they are within those precincts, whatever they say, you can't come out and say, because I said this, you're going to arrest me. They have that immunity. But
Article 110 as well says that Parliament has the full authority to regulate its internal proceedings and procedures as stipulated in Article 110, in essence. And to 4, an Attorney General says that the Supreme Court underscored the need to respect the boundaries of the different arms of government, cautioning against judicial overreach into legislative affairs.
So I think we are engaging in some things that may affect the separation of powers in our country and what shape or form it takes. For example, recently, when the president refused to sign certain bills,
yes,
LGBTQ and the rest, who was to fetter him? We had certain processes run. The law is clear on what the president should do.
Right.
Either sign, or you give your certain reasons, and then the matter proceeds from there. He didn't do either, did he?
Yeah, but
let me make my point. The point is, we are setting very dangerous precedents.
That is so.
When it comes to the three arms of government. And once you have interfighting, quarreling, it's going to be problematic going forward. Some things must be clear in our minds, precedent-wise and technically what the law stipulates, so that you don't have a confusion of who thinks he or she is supposed to do what. And that is where we are. We're on the precipice. Now, these individuals ordinarily may have had to communicate to the speaker that, for example, Honorable Esiama, I am independent, but I am going to contest on the ticket of the MPP. And I think Sweetie posed part of the question I was going to pose. In the absence of that, if they were not going to act of their own accord, I mean, Fee Central and others, that, okay, so I'm going independent, I'm no longer representing the party. Who was to determine, who was to say that on the face of 97(1)(g) and H, this is what the law says, so technically, this and that. They were not taking the initiative. They were obviously not going to move. They were going to enjoy the rest of their tenure, sit in there, do what they felt they had to, and then come 2025, whichever person has won or lost would then see where the cookie crumbles. I don't think that also logically is what the law is telling us to do. So looking at it from this angle, and respectfully, the bit about an employment contract, you see, there are contracts that will also tell you, and it depends on what contract you are signing.
You're right.
If you decide to sign a certain contract, you are bound by it, and that's your problem. But most of these contracts will tell you that you give notice. Others will also tell you that you can leave immediately, but then you forfeit whether your full salary for that month or a certain portion of that salary. So I think it's a dicey bit. On the bit about contempt, where it could get really nasty. Oh, you call me in contempt of the court. I say you are in contempt of my parliamentary decision, ruling, order, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but I want us to focus there. How could this degenerate? Amanda, and to Kweku as well.
It's going to be a free-fall. You know, I mean, literally, if the Supreme Court holds him in contempt, he, by the Constitution, can hold every single member of them in contempt and the Chief Justice and bring them before him and say, you're interfering. So if the Supreme Court is the highest court of the land, and if the separation of powers means this is exactly why everybody should stay in their lane, and you have somehow done this, that is the issue. And the other major issue is this stay of execution on a fresh suit. You know, a stay of execution is on a court decision, etc. So it sets a bad precedent as well, because should this hold, every future president coming in can just do stays of executions until they get what they want. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, the stay of execution is going to last until we imagine the elections, and then the seats will be chosen anyway, so it will be a moot point before the court. And so we are all academic, we are all understanding what the inference is here. But beyond the inference is the fact that it might cost Ghana losing this long democracy we've had, etc. And so, you know, everybody will exercise their power tomorrow, perhaps, but we should think about it long and hard, because the legislative arm is just as powerful as the judicial arm, basically.
You see, there's an impression that anytime anybody comes into conflict with the law, the natural consequences are the person of contempt. We are too advanced in democratic governance to resort to those basic norms. There's a classic case of Lord Denning. He's the most celebrated judge in the Commonwealth. Somebody throwing an egg at him in court, and he ruling that he refuses to hold the person in contempt, because that's exactly what the person wanted to achieve. There are times that you know a certain course of action is being taken to achieve a certain end and whatever, and with due respect, you'll be acting not normally if you take that step. So I personally don't believe things may get worse, but nothing will happen in this country for Parliament. The people who sit in Parliament, don't forget that it's just a section of them, and the other section sits there. If they themselves decide that when the court rules and they find themselves uncomfortable with it, they will not comply with it. That is what Ghanaians will know. The next time, when I go to court and there's a judgment, there's a ruling, whatever it is, and I'm not happy with it, I'll have to take a cue from Parliament. So that is exactly the seed that we are all sowing in this country. I've never ever heard of a case where a Parliament, the maker of the law, says that something affecting us has gone to court, and the court has taken a decision that we are not comfortable with, and for that reason, we will disobey the court. I wouldn't know what the effect, the impact, and the consequence of such a decision. That's what I find much regrettable. But
was there a decision before Dafeamekpor went to court?
Please, you see, I'm careful not to go into that politics. But don't ever think that the courts are always right. They are never. There's a case that I keep on mentioning. I lost in the High Court, I lost in the Court of Appeal, lost in the Supreme Court. I lost even on review. And as I sit here, I'm not happy with the decision, all the decisions. But what do? That is the law. Procedure, because we're not here to discuss procedure and when they should have filed. Let's assume for the sake of a discussion that what Dafeamekpor did was wrong, dead wrong. Nonetheless, the Supreme Court has taken a decision. The question is, the lawmakers of this country, the people who expect us to obey not only laws, but rules and everything, they, in their case, have decided that when it comes against us, it will never happen.
Are you saying that the Speaker should have waited for the Supreme Court's ruling before declaring
No. I mean to say, the decision they've taken consequent upon the ruling of the Supreme Court, that they will not comply with it. That's the most unfortunate thing that ever happened in our constitutional democracy since Nkrumah's time.
So shall we look into the future and in terms of saying what we think is going to happen tomorrow? I mean, like, for instance, I think the Speaker is going to say those 4 seats are still vacant. He's not going to declare who is majority.
I mean, the NDC has already declared that.
Yes, so he's going to say, I'm just announcing that the 4 seats are still vacant. I doubt the Supreme Court will cite him in contempt, because that will lead to a domino effect. And
which they could, by the way.
They have more than the right to cite him in contempt. But as you know, has been pointed out, they might not exercise that because they know that it would lead to this sort of impasse and this domino effect, which could leave everything open. But by the precedent set by Professor Michael Quay Senior in 2020, where expressly it's stated in the Constitution that this is when a seat is vacated. NDC, I mean, they spoke about it for days on the radio, and yet they had to yield to the leader of their house. And in the same manner, NPP will have to yield to the leader of their house. I mean, this is my take on this.
When we come back into the studio, we're going over the phone lines. When we come back, there's a part of the Constitution I want to bring because it reflects all three arms of government. Well, let's bring in Roxanne Nelson, Dafeamekpor, the South Dai legislature. He joins the conversation. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to your viewers. Good morning to my good people in South and taking quality of the talk.
All right.
Good morning to my co-family.
Right. What is your take so far on the proceedings? Your end in Parliament, now it's become dicey, whether to say minority or majority, it's become a tricky business. Your end in Parliament, the NDC, you're saying that you are still the majority and that come Tuesday you're going to enforce your rights. Is that still your position?
Yes, that's our position, and that's the position in accordance with the Constitution. And let the point be made that Parliament is subject to the Constitution. The Supreme Court itself is also subject to the Constitution. Everything starts and ends with the Constitution. So whatever we are doing is subject to what the Constitution declares that we do. It is that simple.
The Supreme Court, the Apex Court, has not ruled on the substantive matters Afenyo Markin sent to it, but it has stayed that decision, ruling, order, whatever you want to call it, of the Speaker of Parliament. Are you saying that you're going to defy the Apex Court, which has every right, though the Constitution talks about the High Court as far as members of Parliament, you're going to defy the Apex Court in terms of its interpretive jurisdiction?
Are you aware that the Supreme Court, in Dafeamekpor versus Attorney General, is not reported yet, held just a couple of months ago, that the court cannot stay the hand of Parliament in the performance of this party? Is anybody aware of this decision?
Could you repeat that point?
In Dafeamekpor versus Attorney General, the court said they cannot, under any circumstance, stay the hand of Parliament or injunct Parliament from the performance of its constitutionally mandated function. That's what the court told us. That's the law. I didn't distill that law. It was the Supreme Court that made that pronouncement.
So you're telling me
where I thought that something against Parliament proceeding with completing the vetting of the ministers, the court said they cannot stay Parliament hand under any circumstance.
that is interesting. That under no circumstance can the court injunct. Is it decisions, workings of Parliament? I'm not so clear. I'm just trying to find out.
Exactly. But let me make this point. And it appears that it's a point that nobody has affected his or her mind to. If Parliament doesn't work, if Parliament wants to listen to what the Supreme Court says in the ex parte decision, which is also erroneous constitutionally ab initio, because the court does not grant a stay of proceedings, stay of execution or injunctive activity an case. If Parliament wants to listen to the Supreme Court, the Parliament cannot function.
Parliament cannot what?
Parliament cannot function. Parliament can't speak. That's what it means.
Okay, very quickly, Sweetie Abochi will be coming in with a set of questions as well. Very quickly, do you think this action of the Supreme Court is an act interfering in the work of Parliament? Is it interference?
It is beyond interference.
What would you call it?
It is beyond interference. And let me give you an instance. Parliament passed a bill into a law and sought to remit or transmit the bill to the office of the president in accordance with the constitutional provision for his effect. Somebody comes to court to say that the court should injunct Parliament from doing so. The court proceeds to hear the application and decides not to make pronouncement on after a heard application for injunction. So as we speak, there's an application for injunction against Parliament regarding the remittance of a bill to the office of the president. The court says that is going to stay his ruling on the matter until the final determination of the case, or during the final determination of the case. It will make the pronouncement as well as the judgment of the matter. The effect is that Parliament appears to be injuncted in that process. If this is not an intrusion into the affairs of Parliament by the Supreme Court, I don't know what else it is.
Okay, Mr.
Dafeamekpor. Because as we speak, that bill has stayed in Parliament, is not been transmitted because the Supreme Court has refused to make a pronouncement in the interim on the merits of the application before it.
Mr. Dafeamekpor, Parliament is an independent institution, right? The Supreme Court cannot tell Parliament how to... Hold on a second for me. The Supreme Court cannot tell Parliament how to do its business. However, it can tell Parliament if it's not doing its work constitutionally. The argument is that the Speaker was not supposed to declare those seats vacant. It's not within his power to do that. So should the judiciary not have the final say on how we steer this time?
That is not what we are saying. Whether or not Speaker has power to make those pronouncements as he may was a matter subject to Article 97. So if somebody is in court for the interpretation of Article 97, is the Supreme Court saying that Parliament cannot proceed to perform its functions until the final determination of the matter? Then Parliament will close. Parliament will shut up until the final determination of the matter. Because what Speaker has done, Speaker has already made the proposal. So Parliament will have...
In fact, Mr. Pencil here would argue that the Speaker of Parliament does not have the right to declare those seats vacant. Although the Constitution, the Article 97, Clause 1G says that these persons should vacate their seats, they themselves were not going to do that. And he argues that the Speaker did not have the right to actually declare those seats vacant. So in this confusion right now, is the Supreme Court not the last person to have a final say on how we steer this tide?
Thank you very much. The constitutional provision must be read in its totality. Now, find out who must inform the electoral commission whenever there is a vacant, when there is a vacant seat in Parliament. Find out under the Constitution whose duty it is. The electoral commission does not have public information or public information.
Roxanne, we are losing you briefly. Just move a little and start that point again so we can hear you better.
Sorry? Hello?
Better now. Go ahead.
I'm saying that under the Constitution, it is only the Speaker of Parliament that is mandated to inform the Electoral Commission whether or not a vacancy has been created in Parliament. Only the Speaker. The Electoral Commission cannot proceed to act and say that, oh, I have simply heard that an MP has resigned from office, or an MP has been diseased, or an MP has been elected as Speaker, and therefore I am proceeding to organize a by-election. The Electoral Commission does not do that. It has to be pursuant to a letter from the Speaker of Parliament to that effect. So it is the Speaker that, when you read the Constitution in its totality, the power to declare its vacant is inherent. Speaker for Speaker.
Right. Please hold. Mr. Pencil said he has some reflections on what you're saying.
You see, my good friend, you cannot ignore the fact that whenever it comes to any confusion in the interpretation of our laws, it is the Supreme Court that's got the final say. What is happening now, in spite of all the authorities that you cited, you have to go to court. Even when the Supreme Court or any court has made definite, there's a precedent binding any situation that we find ourselves, before you go to court, you arm yourself with all the authorities, notwithstanding that only one person can always come up on top. Now, what is happening now is that you have given an interpretation to a section of the Constitution on the basis of which you believe your conduct is right, and your conduct is so right that even the Supreme Court must not have a say regarding your conduct.
I don't think that's the argument. I think that substantial constitutional interpretation takes hearings. And what is particularly peculiar in this situation is that there's been a stay of execution on a fresh suit. So it is to circumvent the process, suspend the Speaker's decision up until the point of the election where all seats are going to be rearranged anyway. So it's just a very intellectual way of getting an end result that circumvents justice and the procedure.
Yeah, but right
so that
or wrong,
is what people have.
Right or wrong,
right.
The Supreme Court has made a pronouncement of a sort. And the only issue, as I understand,
a pronouncement which doesn't add anything to...
No, you call it that way.
Establishing what exactly we are hoping
so
is it right or
wrong?
wrong?
Call it that way. Let's say, I've assumed for the sake of a discussion that the Supreme Court is dead wrong.
No, I'm not saying it is wrong. I'm saying that it has not established what the main point, the focal point is. Yes. Is this right? Is it wrong? They've just given an injunction.
Yeah. That's the purpose of an injunctive relief. That's the usual purpose of injunctive relief, and they don't make a pronouncement on the merits. Now, the point I'm making is, must anybody who feels disaffected by that interim order that the Supreme Court has made take the law into his own hands merely because he is a parliamentarian? That's the issue we need to be answering.
But
nobody in this country has got the power to do what a section of the parliament is doing now.
No, but the legislative authority, where does it lie? Article 93(2) states that legislative authority solely lies in Parliament. The legislative power of Ghana shall be vested in Parliament and shall be exercised in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. Article 110 further says that Parliament therefore has full authority to regulate its internal proceedings and procedures. And then what did the Speaker say? The Speaker said that the notice of polls confirmed the 4 MPs were running as independent candidates. They no longer had the mandate to remain in the current Parliament. So it was his duty to just simply announce the vacation of the seats. That was how simple everything was. But this stay of execution perhaps is the issue, because you don't have a stay of an execution on a fresh suit.
Yeah, but
the point also to be made is that if you look at the Constitution, each of the arms of government has this to sort of delineate. If you go to 125(3), it says, the judicial power of Ghana shall be vested in the judiciary. Accordingly, neither the President nor Parliament nor any organ or agency of the President or Parliament shall have or be given final judicial power. Each of them have their own enclaves within which to work. And that's what some people are saying is an interference. If I may add Article 115 before you come in, Kweku Pencil. There shall be freedom of speech, debate and proceedings in Parliament, proceedings, everything in Parliament, and that freedom shall not be impeached or questioned in any court or placed out of Parliament.
Any court.
The fundamental disagreement we have is that we know all these laws. Notwithstanding all that, the Supreme Court has made a definite pronouncement. The question now is whether any section of Ghana, be they parliamentarians, be they students, be they whoever, have the right to defy the order of the Supreme Court.
Yes, if they have parliamentary privilege, they do.
Excuse me. Parliamentary privilege to defy the Supreme Court because of the privilege or because of the point of law that arises on the basis of the distinction. Because talking about this issue of making a pronouncement as to whether somebody continues to be a member, it's not that of Parliament itself. It's a constitutional issue.
And yet the precedent was set by NPP.
Oh, please.
The precedent was set by NPP.
Okay.
Let's try to see whether we have Roxanne on the line.
Mr. Dafeamekpor, are you still with us?
Some of these.
Okay.
Okay, so one. Let me ask my senior Kweku, what the law?
You're breaking up again.
Hello?
Yes, you're breaking up again. Reposition. We can hear you.
Hello? Yes. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Let me ask, what is the law? When the court?
Roxanne, we can't get your question. We'll try to reposition one last time. Else, you know what? We're going to call you with a different line because we need to hear what you're saying. So just end this. We'll call you shortly. But of course, that leaves us with this conundrum, this albatross round our necks. And only time will tell from tomorrow how this pans out. Like I said, the Constitution delineates clearly what the executive should do and cannot do, what the legislature should do or cannot do, and what the judiciary can or cannot do. Dafeamekpor, can you hear me now?
Hello?
Roxanne, can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better.
All right,
now.
go ahead. Much clearer. Go ahead with your point.
So my first point to my senior Pencil is that what is the remediable step available under law when a court decision is disobeyed? What is the steps available? That's contempt.
Oh, that's
is that not
the Okay, go on. I'm listening.
That is contempt. So we want to urge those who think that Parliament is disobeying the orders of the court to initiate the contempt proceeding. And of course, the applicant can do that. That's one. Number two, the order directed at Parliament is not directed at any group of people nor the Speaker. The Supreme Court is asking Parliament not to carry out its functions, its certain functions. That's what the Supreme Court is saying. It is not directed at any particular officer. It is directed at the organ of government, which is Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. So let nobody say that a group of people have decided not to respect the orders of the court. This matter is about Parliament as an institution. So that is what we are saying. We are saying that Parliament will have to shut down if the Supreme Court order will have to be obeyed. So me, I am in favor that we shut down until the matter is finally decided.
So you're in favor of what before the matter is finally decided?
Parliament shut down. Parliament tomorrow, Speaker adjourns die until the Supreme Court determines the matter.
Okay, so you're saying that then you're basically saying the strategy of your end in Parliament is that Parliament is going to adjourn sine die indefinitely at some point till the Supreme Court has also given its decision.
That is the only way to satisfy the Supreme Court in this matter, because the order is neither directed at the Speaker, at the clerk to Parliament, nor the members of Parliament. It is directed to Parliament as an organ of state. And as an organ of state, if the Supreme Court says, don't proceed with a certain function of office, you shut down, you go home.
What is interesting is that the Dafeamekpor suit was directed at both the Speaker and the AG, but the ruling of the court was general, like you make it. But what does this do? What does this do for government business?
Those are the inconsistencies I have identified. For instance, the Supreme Court said that the defendant was absent when clearly what was before them was an ex parte application. So how do you expect the defendant to be present in court?
Exactly. So the point then is, do you realize what this does for government business? It means government business is coming to a grinding halt.
Yes, because the court says that they don't want government business to suffer. And yet what they are doing is to shut down government business. That is what they have done.
Okay, so now we have a fair idea.
The court doesn't appear to appreciate how Parliament functions, with all due respect. With all due respect. And they've done it on several occasions in respect of several matters that have gone before the court.
Mention one other occasion.
The court, for instance, said that a certain provision in a bill was not debated long enough. So the same court shut it down. Parliament had to go back to go and re-debate that matter. Which cost us resources and time.
I see. I don't know whether you have any reactions, because what he's saying then means that, okay, you say you are injuncting Parliament, yes, no problem. The Speaker also comes and says, until the Supreme Court delivers a final verdict on this, we are also adjourning sine die. Do you know what that means?
No, we haven't reached that stage. That's what he claims they intend to do as a reaction to the Supreme Court ruling. We haven't come to that bridge. But you know, when we speak of the Supreme Court, they are made of people like you and me. With due respect, I could have been sitting on the Supreme Court. I'm not there for a reason of my own. So the point of the matter is that I don't become transformed into a superhuman once I go to the Supreme Court.
In other words, Supreme Court justices are also fallible.
That is so. They make errors. So what we're talking about, whether they've made an error in this case or they've not made an error, I'm not making a pronouncement. The matter is still before them. But the legal jurisprudence, the legal regime allows for business to proceed and to continue in spite of any party's feelings about the matter before the court. And so the point I'm making is this, that assuming, I've deliberately refused to go into the merits of the case before the court, because once we go there, the whole thing will degenerate. But being before, we are dealing more with an issue of procedure. And the point is, a person feels disaffected by the way the court has acted. And therefore, and knowing also that citing them for contempt will bring some disorder into the system. On the strength of that and that only, they decide that, okay, we'll ignore you. But the point I've made, which I'll repeat, is the effect of what our parliament or a section of our parliament is doing on the Ghanaian psyche. How many people, apart from parliament, can exercise that right to disagree and disobey the Supreme Court at the same time? We all disagree. We all, at every point in time, because never ever made, there are all kinds of suspicions. These things are even being run on all party lines and so forth and so on. But the real issue, as I'm concerned, is how we must behave towards decisions of the Supreme Court that we feel is affected with, however and irrespective of what reasons we have for being disaffected.
You know, the argument...
Is that also to say we should swallow everything? Especially as you start on the trajectory of the fallible, I don't know.
The argument that Dr. Arthur Kennedy made over the weekend is that the Supreme Court appears to be doing more politics than law. And now we can also say that both the NPP and the NDC have made this an issue, or they're framing it as an issue of party dominance in Parliament. The question on my mind is, how can constitutional matters like these be kept from being overly politicized? Because now they're threatening that Parliament, they're going to hang Parliament. That means every business that needs to be in Parliament, there's that LI that needs to be repealed, so many other issues. I know that the NDC is happy because there's that tax waiver bill that they are trying to stop and all that. What do we do? How do we move on from here? Amanda?
I think the Speaker of the House is the leader of his House, and he will inform the Ghanaian population about what he intends to do through, speaking to the members of Parliament tomorrow. And I would be so bold as to predict that should he be asked about whether those vacancies are still available, he will confirm. He's not confirming what the majority is, but he's just confirming what he said stands. He's announcing again that the 4 vacancies are vacant. And then it will be up to the Supreme Court whether they are going to hold him in contempt, and then he can hold them in contempt. And then all the law students throughout Ghana can get a perfect example of why the separation of powers means stay in your own lane.
I think at that point, the students of law and practicing lawyers, do you know what we'll get to do?
Celebrated this example.
You know, some of us, we like it when the law is tested.
Yes, it's tested.
So we'll get a nice sofa, grab our popcorn, and then, we'll watch
what power looks like. What power looks like.
As it unfolds.
Tomorrow is less than 24 hours now, so let's see how it goes. We have to take your final comments.
Maybe we should start with Roxanne, who is online, and we'll have to go.
Yes. Mr. Dafeamekpor, give us a wrap of your thoughts. We are wrapping up. Do we have...
my final thoughts on this matter is that we should be questioning why a certain political party will allow its members to abandon ship and still insist in Parliament that they remain its members on the floor of Parliament, when the same political party just 4 years ago took the same decision to have a member sacked for Parliament when he took the same step. That's one. 2, Speaker has one of 2 options available to him. Either to enter the matter as a party and fight and seek to set aside the decision in this matter, that is if he's minded, or if he's guided by the generality of the application of law, he has to shut down Parliament. Because any further step we take on Tuesday will be to maintain the status quo ante. And before Afejo went to court, what was the status quo ante? The status quo ante was that the NDC had become majority. So if there's anything to be said, it is the effect that the status quo ante in Parliament must be maintained. And so as for that one, we will insist on it tomorrow.
So in other words, you are defying that injunction to stay...
No, I am saying it's not, you see, the Supreme Court says, stay your hand. It is after the pronouncement of Speaker.
Right.
Anything to be said is ipso facto Speaker's pronouncement before the House. And as soon as Speaker made those pronouncements, there's something we call automaticity of application of law. Once your numbers have been reduced, you have become a minority. It is as simple as that.
All right.
So before we adjourn on Thursday, it is the NDC that is the majority. And that is all we maintain. So either we do that or Parliament adjourns in that until the Supreme Court determines the matter.
Thank you so much, Roxy Nelson Dafeamekpor, Member of Parliament for South Dai. Let's come back into the studios and wrap up. Mr. Pinsel.
I will only quote a scene or saying from Julius Caesar. He said, "O men, O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason." That is all.
That's it? You leave it
The
at that?
situation in which we find ourselves, that's the only judgment. Thou art fled to brutish beasts, men have lost their reason. These are the people we have voted to rule our country. All parliamentarians, I'm not talking about one section, one side of them. They've led us to where we are, and now we don't know whether we are going left or we are going right.
Mr. Painter,
these arguments are healthy for
do you want to extend that to the executive and the judiciary as well? Because if you look at certain actions, I cited for you the bills that the president refused to sign. I've cited for you other things where the law is clear. Do this, and it's not being done. Do you think we should extend it to them? All our leaders, are they doing what is right to, you know, and have they all lost their reason? I don't know.
You see, I may wish to limit myself to where we find ourselves. Because, see, what goes on in the body politic of Ghana, if we are to go into that, we may need another session to come in and say what we have to say. Because, in fairness, I mean, there's a perception. I mean, you are letting me to go into further details. I mean, there's a perception, for instance, that what's going on has also got politics to do with it. But nobody's talking about it. And that is what is feeding the undercurrent. And we're having all of these things appear on the surface. And somewhere along the line...
Politics from which side, I must...
Both sides. In
well,
other words,
it is politics. I thought politics from the judiciary side as well.
Oh, no, the judiciary don't engage in politics. I'm an MPP sympathizer. If I'd gone into the place, somebody would say that I make decisions because I'm an MPP man. The law is very clear. And therefore, I don't accept...
I have a final point for you briefly. You don't have to respond.
Please do.
Our time is up. But the point is, when the judiciary is not beyond politics. When they go there, just as a president, once you get elected, you are no longer NDC, you are no longer MPP, you are no longer from any other party. You are there in the interest of Ghana. The assets of the country are vested in you for certain reasons. But we also know that they remain political and they vote. So, and you can have on the face of the law one line that 5 people will all interpret differently. And sometimes you cannot distinguish whether there's politics in there or not.
I agree.
Amanda,
in the US.
final words, and then we're out of here.
My final words is that the notice of polls confirmed that 4 MPs were running as independent candidates. And no matter how you look at it, Article 97(1)(g) says, if you seek to remain in Parliament as an independent member, meaning you're not NPP, you're not NDC, that means you're independent. That is very express. And so if something has been circumvented in a way where there's a stay of execution on a fresh suit right up to the elections, it is also perhaps for Parliament to express that they are an independent arm of government. And we will see where the chips lie. But honestly, I think this should be tested tomorrow because, you know, they all have equal power in different ways. And that's what separation of power means, checks and balances.
Sweetie, so you know, this reminds me of a song. Who is majority, who is minority? We used to be majority, we are minority, we are... Come back, come back, come back.
Oh. But before it comes back, there was something that was popularly known as the West African wager between Nkrumah and Ofobuani about the future of the politics of their countries. So I'm setting up a wager between me and Amanda when the Supreme Court eventually sits on this matter.
Benjamin, I'll bring you popcorn tomorrow.
Please
they'll sit
bring
on the
me some
matter.
salt and some sugar because it's going to pop.
They'll sit on the matter after the elections, which will make the point moot.
Well,
thank
you so much for joining us on this. It's been a great panel, really. I've enjoyed myself, and the lawyers came to argue their point out. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Benjamin,
we had Kweku Painto, a lawyer. Thank you so much, sir. Amanda Clinton, also a lawyer, passionate about these affairs. And we also had another lawyer who is also the legislator for South Dai, Roxanne Nelson, Dafeamekpor. All of them joined us for this conversation. We take a breather. We'll be back with more action talking about Galamsey and other related matters. Stay.
Let's talk about illegal mining. Benjamin, that story about Erastus Asare Donko and some other 3 members of the multimedia group being attacked by 10 armed men. I don't know why we still say that we are fighting illegal mining when people are still emboldened enough to take up arms against journalists or simply doing their work. But let's bring you.
It reminds you of Daniel Yadomalevo, and he's saying that if you fight corruption, it will fight you back. It appears if you fight Galamsey,
Galamsey will fight you back.
It is what it is. But let's watch some scenes from there before we come into the studio for a conversation.
This appears to have been recorded secretly, discreetly. It appears we have some scenes from that incident where Erastus Asare Donko and his crew members. In fact, we have Erastus Asare Donko joining us on phone. Erastus, many thanks for joining us this morning on the AM show. What are we looking at on our screens right now?
Well, I'm not close to a television set, but I guess looking at the exchanges between the police and the people, the heavily built men who are assaulted.
I have to ask you, how are you doing this morning?
Well, physically I'm okay. And we are poised to start another day. But I have some problems with my right eye, and it looks like there's a dark spot on it. I showed it to the doctors yesterday at Aguri, and they said to show it another aspect of anotis. So we are honoring an invitation from the police, and after that we'll get a doctor to look at it.
You have an issue with your right eye and you see a dark spot on it. Why does this? It's just reminiscent of what our very own Latif went through at a point, and he's still, suffering from that. But can you just walk us through what exactly happened from start to finish? You may not be watching the visuals now, but what happened? Walk us through what happened.
I'm watching the visuals now, and what you're seeing now on TV is when, after our report at the police, they sent a task force together with us to the site, the mining site, again, to identify the people. And so you could see those in your shop, those who assaulted us, at least majority of them are here, and you can see them exchanging words with the police. This was when they asked them to get onto the vehicle, and they said no, they won't get onto the vehicle. They have to talk to their people. And what you're seeing now, the guy with the black hat was saying that we are not buying, you're buying the water near Penny.
I see.
That guy in a white t-shirt with his back facing us, he was saying, you're buying the water into near Penny to which our government is in power and we do what we want. So we won't go, we won't come with you. And it ended there. Like, the police were not able to arrest any of the guys you are seeing in your shops at the moment. But these are the people who took us hostage, drove us for minutes, and assaulted us in the bush.
Erastus, what explanation did the police give you for their failure to arrest these people who clearly had assaulted you?
Well, they told us that they feel that they were outnumbered and they had to regroup and come back.
What about the other members of your crew? How are they faring this morning?
So I called the drone guy. He has a hearing problem in the left ear. So I've asked him to get it tested with the Conference Teaching Hospital. But the other two, Eddie and Nicholas, the driver and the camera technician, they are okay.
The whole bit about the way the police reacted or those security officials you had on the scene, how did that make you feel?
Seriously, it makes me feel helpless.
Helpless?
Yes, because I felt that we had 8 armed policemen and they could do something. They could at least arrest some of them. But when we went there and they couldn't, and the people felt that they were more powerful than the police. At the point they were even exchanging words with them. It makes me feel helpless as a civilian. Seriously.
Why did you think the police could not effect any arrest? Why did you think the police could not? Because they are clothed with the power of the law, even the power of force, depending on the situation. And yet, these people beat you guys up, and the police was unable to do anything. Why do you think that was?
In fact, 2 main things ran through my mind. Listening to them, and at a point it became more of a conversation between them. One is either they know them, they are familiar with them. That was the conversation. At a point they were conversing. They called them to a point. They stand there. They were chatting with them. More like pleading with them to come with them to the police. And perhaps they know whoever is behind those people is more powerful than them, and they feel the consequences, and that's why they. And again, the third one, if I should add, is that I feel they also felt outnumbered because the people were many. And so they felt that doing an arrest at that particular point would cause chaos, and they need to regroup and come back. So all these 3, I think, is possible.
Outnumbered, but outgunned as well. We also saw some of these people. You see someone decked in an attire that resembles the American flag, and he's wielding a gun. I don't know whether you remember that.
That one was a policeman.
He was a police officer. Okay.
Yeah.
But I also hear.
But you see that the other guys, when we met them at the site, they had gone to dump their guns, and so they came unarmed.
Okay. So they had guns, but they had gone to dump them.
All of them had guns. All of them had pump-action guns. All of them.
I see.
And the police was aware that they had guns?
We told them. But when they came back to meet the police at the site, they had dropped the guns.
So was this after the beating or before? This was after, right?
This was after the beating, when we had gone to report the case to the police, and they gave us the task force you see in the video, all armed, about 8 officers armed, to come back to the site to identify the men.
Erastus,
so the one in red and this one in your shot, they are all police officers.
Let me ask you, what exactly, I mean, we've seen the footage and everything. What exactly did these people do to you and the other men? I want you to reiterate. What did they do? I want specifics.
They accosted us, and I would say they arrested us, because then they took hold of everything we had. They ran a body search on each of us, took everything we had in our pockets, the drone, the camera, and everything, and then forced us into our own vehicle, because one of the armed men sat behind the driver and asked him to follow their vehicle. And so we followed their vehicle. We were flanked by motorcycles with all of them armed. A vehicle behind us with armed people, a vehicle ahead of us, so we were sandwiched in between. And they said we were going to the next town. When we reached the next town, they bypassed the next town and was going into the bush. So I got scared and asked them, where are you taking us? They wouldn't tell us. They said if the driver will not drive, they will force him out and bring their driver to drive the vehicle. And this was at a gunpoint. So I have to tell the driver to cooperate, go with them. So we followed them. We drove for about another 20 minutes. We reached a secluded forest area, and then they asked us to get down. That was where I got scared, because when you say we should get down, are you going to shoot us? What are you going to do? So I was trying to find out from the gentleman, and then I received 2 hot slaps that I was asking stupid questions. I should get out. So I got out.
Can you identify the one who slapped you?
Apple ID. So they format my phone. I said, why would you want to format my phone? He said, I've taken pictures of the mining site, and so they want to delete it. I said, fine. If you want to delete the pictures I've taken, which is unlawful, but I will still open the phone for you to do that. But to say you are formatting my phone and clearing everything, that one I disagree. So at this point, I got another 2 hot slaps from behind.
Who was this person slapping you? Do you know?
Everybody. One will come, will slap you. The other one will come, will punch you in the face. Just like that.
Erasto, did they know you were coming? You're from the multimedia group. Did they know who you were?
They knew we went there with a branded vehicle. Our jackets were branded with Joy News. They asked of our names and our designation. We gave it to them. They knew who we were. They even, at a point, removed the Joy News jacket from me. And until now, I still don't have it. It's with them.
Wow. I mean, these things are always at a point you realize that anything could have happened. Your life could have been taken by these gentlemen. You were afraid for your life and that of your crew. How has that impacted you? How has that traumatized you?
In fact, it's scary to think that just by doing your job, you could fall into that near death experience. And when they asked us to get down, that was, it was like they were going to shoot us, gun us down. So that was what was going through my mind. And I wouldn't want to get out of the vehicle. And I kept asking them what they were going to do. And I think that infuriated them. But at the end of it all, they took the SD cards from the drone, from the camera. I think their motive was to prevent whatever they were doing on that mining site, which was totally criminal and evil, from going out. And so they took the SD cards, they formatted some of our phones, they deleted some from my phone as well. But what is important is that they took the drone battery, 5 of them. It was in a bag with a Lenovo tablet, which we used to run the drone. These are expensive tools that we use, and until now we don't have them.
Erastus, how has this impacted your activism against illegal mining?
It doesn't change anything. What will change is that we have to revise our security protocol. But to bring to fore what is killing all of us, that one to us is a duty.
Thank you so much for sharing this experience with us. And we are so sorry that this happened to you in just doing your job, like you say, a near-death experience. Thank you so much, Erastus.
Do you know Erastus Hasaridonko, a former GJA, or journalist of the year, and this is how he's treated. This is
he's a current winner for fight against illegal mining.
Well, let's bring in Dr. Ken Ashigbe. He is with the Media Coalition Against Galamsey. Ken, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
On the back of this happening, very briefly, what is your takeaway, and what do you think should be the way forward? Police officers were there, nothing could be done.
Well, I've just been told by Kojo that apparently Evans got intervened and got the IGP involved. And so when the team, the IGP ordered for the team to go, they were outnumbered by these criminals. So they had to retreat, and that the police are going to be dealing with it. But this is the reason why we need a state of emergency declared, so that people like this, criminal minds like this, who could immediately start terrorizing people, are dealt with. It is important that today, all of us, well-minded Ghanaians, show our abhorrence to this, and we take the necessary steps to ensure people are put behind special courts that have been set up for dealing with Galamsey, and these people are prosecuted, and we ensure that the maximum sentence is brought to bear on the various crimes, the vigilante law, the issues of the Minerals and Mining Act as amended, attacks on journalists, all of that, because this is completely unacceptable. That we sit in a country where we all say, you should have listened to what a program on BBC that was denigrating us as a country, disgracing us because of the very disgraceful way in which we're dealing with this. And then we have people who just think that because their government is in power, they have the power to, when the police go inviting them, they can decide that they won't go. What licenses do you have in carrying those weapons that they're carrying? And it is important that beyond the criminal action that will be brought, multimedia and all, various organizations get involved and will bring a civil action against whoever these people are. Their license ought to be revoked. If the board members, all of them who are involved in this criminal enterprise, we need to deal with them. And it's important that we speak up and say, and I pray, after this, the fact, this is the reason why we are asking for a state division. These people are so powerful that people keep up fully unable for it. The only way you can deal with it is a state of division.
Right.
Also, my labor who are suspended to take up the system as part of the issue stated that the way you go dealing with that state of division. This is what you get.
Kenashigwe, unfortunately, you're breaking up, but thank you so much for joining us. That's all that time will allow. He is the convener for the Media Coalition Against Galamsey and the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications. This is really sad, Benjamin, but let's take a break. We'll return with more on the AM show. Let's talk about the National Science and Maths Quiz now. The battle to finding the champions of the science and math education is on 18 senior high schools who so far qualified for the quarterfinals. And let's get into a conversation with Emanuela Odamate. She's Ghana Brands Manager for Better Malt, one of the sponsors for this year's National Science and Maths Quiz. Good morning, Emanuela. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. I hope
you're in my favorite color, red.
I'm glad.
Okay, so what inspired you? I know that National Science and Maths Quiz now is like a household name. Everybody wants their school to win and all that. But you, as a brand, what inspired you to come on board as a sponsor?
Yes. So first of all, thank you for having us here. Greetings from Accra Brewery PLC, the manufacturers of Better Malt and all your best beer brands on the market. We can all attest to the fact that STEM education has taken an integral part in Ghana's educational system, and NSMKO has been championing this. So as a brand that believes in the achievement and supporting individuals to achieve their goals, we found that the best platform, to support these individuals, because Better Malt believes in achieving your goals. And we've been working with a lot of SHS students to make sure that we equip them with the necessary tools to enable them achieve these goals. We've done a lot of competitions like the Upcycling Challenge, which are all tied to science-related activities. Okay. And so we came on board to strengthen that collaboration that we have with STEM education and overall support our individuals to reach the goals that they have attained for themselves.
Are there any benefits that the students derive from drinking Better Malt?
A lot, a lot. We are the best malt beverage on the market. We are offering refreshment, we are offering nutrition, and we are offering value. I'm sure you are aware Better Malt has vitamin A, B, and C. And so not only are we giving you the great taste, we are also helping you be healthier, right? Because our students are on the go every day, and so they need something that will boost their energy. And so that is where Better Malt comes in. And we are also a support to them. So anytime you pick Better Malt, you just know that this brand is supporting you achieve your goals. This brand is backing you up in any intellectual dream that you have.
And I know you say you're doing a lot of work with senior high school students, but they are not your only targets in terms of coming on board as sponsors for this brand. So what are the demographics, or what segments are you targeting with this sponsorship? Who are your target audience?
Everyone, okay? Everyone that's interested in STEM education. It's funny how NSMQ has moved to just being an SHS sensation to a nationwide, sensation. We have our old students having peaceful banters amongst themselves as to who will win. And so to us, we are using it as a platform to reach every single body. Our mothers, our fathers, students, whoever needs Better Malt to, help them boost their energy. It's for every single body.
Are there more collaborations, maybe to anticipate between you and Primetime Limited, the organizers of National Science and Maths Quiz, or this is just a one-time thing?
No. Better Malt was on NSMQ last year, and we plan on fostering this relationship further because we know what the result has been. We are not only reaching our audience, but we are also making known the nutritional benefits that comes with Better Malt with such a big platform. And so this is not going to be the last of Better Malt. Primetime has been a great, partner. They've been very collaborative and everything. And so that relationship is going to continue because to us, the consumer is the most important thing. And so if it's NSMQ that will enable us to reach our audience, then so be it. We are going to continue to make sure that we make this partnership fruitful and to reach everybody that we can with what Better Malt comes on board.
Being here on this platform, I'm sure many people are watching, not just the students, but, should I say sympathizers? Old students of various schools. What is your message as Better Malt to the various supporters of the various schools in the current competition right now?
All the best to everybody. Unfortunately, I can't be biased to one school, but we believe St. Louis Senior High School.
And are they in the competition?
Not currently. I'll have to check if they were able to qualify, but we are the pace setters, so whether we made it or not, it's still the best. But anyway, so the schools that are part on this, I believe you've done so well, especially to those competing. STEM education has come a long way, and we believe that they're in the right direction. And so as a brand, we are supporting you through and through. We are empowering you to achieve these dreams that you have. And to the schools, whether you made it or not, we believe that it was a great step. National Math and Science Quiz is every year, so all the best to you next year. And Better Malt is going to be that supporting factor throughout the journey for our students.
Emanuela Odamate, thank you so much for joining. She's Ghana Brands Manager for Better Malt. I wish you all the best too.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
And you know that the National Science and Maths Quiz, you can catch all the details and updates right here on Joy News because we are the ones bringing you all that. Many thanks for your time. And that's how we're wrapping up for this morning, Monday edition. But before we go, is it back? Yes, it is absolutely back. After a 4-year hiatus, the Joy Sports Invitational Tournament is making its much-anticipated return, ready to ignite the passion of corporate sports enthusiasts across Ghana. From the dazzling display of corporate colors to the electrifying energy of non-stop cheering to the CEO's penalty shootout, men's football competition, women's penalty shootout, mixed 4x100 meter relay, basketball shooting, mixed volleyball, women's dash, so many games, lime and spoon, Scrabble, arm wrestling, and many more. So mark your calendars for Saturday, October 26th. Yes, this coming Saturday at the University of Ghana Sports Stadium, Legon, and that place will be transformed into a vibrant arena of competition and corporate pride. To register, simply call 0540-106-466. This is the Joy Sports Invitational Tournament and it's proudly brought to you by Joy Sports. Joy Sports, play for peace. One final dedication going out to, this is happy 60th birthday to Agnes Afremia Osafo in team of Fond Tissues. May the Lord bless you. May he gift you long life and prosperity, more grace and money. From Awo, your sister, Baby Ya and David V.O. They say they love you very much. Happy 60th birthday, madam. Thank you so much for staying with us from 6 a.m. till now. My name is Sweetie Abochi. I do this with Benjamin Akakpo. We're back on your screens tomorrow. But for now, Joy News Desk is up next with Faustina Safo. Please stay.